Steve Jobs was not just a businessman, he was a visionary who reshaped entire industries. From revolutionizing personal computing with Apple, to transforming animation with Pixar, and redefining mobile technology with the iPhone, his impact on the world is undeniable. But what made Jobs truly extraordinary was not just his products. It was the way he thought. He saw opportunities where others saw limits, simplified what others overcomplicated, and refused to settle for anything less than perfection. For entrepreneurs, understanding Jobs' mindset is not about copying his actions, but about learning how he approached innovation, problem-solving, and leadership. His success was built on bold decisions, relentless focus, and a deep belief in creating products that people love. By studying how he built Apple, rescued Pixar, and turned failure into opportunity with Next, entrepreneurs can gain valuable insights into how to think differently, take risks, and build businesses that stand the test of time. Steve Jobs had an extraordinary ability to foresee trends long before they became mainstream. His deep understanding of technology, consumer behavior, and market needs allowed him to predict the future of computing, mobile technology, and digital media. In the early days of personal computing, when most people were still using text-based interfaces that required typing commands, Jobs recognized the potential of graphical user interfaces. While visiting Xerox PARC in the late 1970s, he saw an experimental computer called the Alto, which featured a graphical interface with icons and a mouse. At the time, Xerox executives failed to see its significance, but Jobs immediately understood that this was the future of computing. He took this concept, refined it, and introduced it to the world with the Macintosh in 1984, making computers accessible to everyday users rather than just programmers and technical experts. This foresight changed the entire industry and set the foundation for modern operating systems. Jobs also had a keen sense of where mobile computing was heading. Long before smartphones became an essential part of daily life, he envisioned a world where people could carry powerful, internet-connected devices in their pockets. While mobile phones in the early 2000s were focused on hardware features like keyboards and styluses, Jobs saw that consumers wanted a more intuitive and seamless experience. He insisted on a touchscreen-only interface and eliminated unnecessary buttons, leading to the revolutionary launch of the iPhone in 2007. His vision was not just about creating a phone, but about building an ecosystem that would integrate music, apps, and communication into one device. This foresight reshaped the entire telecommunications industry, forcing competitors to follow Apple's lead and accelerating the shift toward mobile-first computing. Another major trend Jobs anticipated was the rise of digital music. In the late 1990s, music piracy was rampant, and record labels were struggling to adapt to the internet. Most consumers still relied on CDs, and the idea of legally downloading music was not widely accepted. Jobs saw an opportunity to create a simple and legal way for people to buy and listen to music digitally. In 2001, Apple introduced the iPod, a sleek portable music player with a massive storage capacity. However, the real game changer was the iTunes Store, launched in 2003, which allowed users to buy individual songs for just 99 cents. Jobs convinced major record labels to sign on to this new model, revolutionizing the music industry and paving the way for streaming services like Spotify and Apple Music. This was a clear example of how Jobs not only predicted the future, but also played a crucial role in shaping it. The reason Jobs was able to anticipate these trends was not just his understanding of technology, but his ability to connect different industries and consumer needs in a way that others did not. He was not an engineer, yet he had a deep appreciation for technology and how it could be made more human-centric. He was not a musician, but he understood how people wanted to experience music in the digital age. He was not a traditional business executive, Yet he knew how to position products in a way that captured the public's imagination. His ability to see the bigger picture and connect seemingly unrelated ideas gave him a strategic advantage over his competitors. For entrepreneurs, this ability to foresee trends is crucial for building long-term success. Markets are constantly evolving, and businesses that fail to anticipate changes often struggle to survive. Entrepreneurs should focus on understanding emerging technologies, shifts in consumer behavior, and broader economic trends. One way to do this is by staying informed about developments in multiple industries, attending conferences, and talking to experts outside their field. Jobs did not limit his knowledge to the tech world. He drew inspiration from calligraphy, art, music, and even Eastern philosophy. This cross-disciplinary thinking allowed him to create products that resonated deeply with consumers. Another critical lesson from Jobs' foresight is the importance of timing. It is not enough to simply identify a trend. Entrepreneurs must know when to act. Launching a product too early, before the market is ready, can lead to failure, while entering too late can mean losing the competitive edge. Jobs had a remarkable sense of timing, as seen in the launch of the iPad in 2010. While tablet computers had existed for years, they never gained widespread adoption. Jobs waited until the technology was advanced enough to create a device that was thin, powerful, and had a seamless user experience. As a result, the iPad became a massive success, creating an entirely new category of consumer electronics. Underlying Jobs' ability to foresee trends was his unwavering belief in having a strong mission and vision. Unlike many executives who focus on short-term profits, Jobs was driven by a bigger purpose: to create products that enriched people's lives. This mission guided every decision he made at Apple, from product design to marketing strategies. He believed that technology should be intuitive, beautiful, and empowering. This philosophy was evident in Apple's products, which were designed not just to function well, but to provide an emotional connection with users. Jobs often spoke about the intersection of technology and the humanities, emphasizing that the best innovations come from blending technical excellence with a deep understanding of human needs. Having a clear mission and vision is essential for any entrepreneur. A strong mission provides direction and ensures that every decision aligns with the company's core purpose. It helps businesses stay focused, especially during challenging times. Many startups fail because they lack a clear vision and get distracted by chasing trends without a deeper purpose. Jobs understood that a company needs to stand for something beyond just making money. When he returned to Apple in 1997 after being fired a decade earlier, he found the company in chaos. It had too many products, no clear strategy, and was on the verge of bankruptcy. His first move was to simplify Apple's product line and refocus the company around its original mission, creating the best personal computing experience. This clarity of purpose not only saved Apple, but set it on a path to becoming the most valuable company in the world. Entrepreneurs can learn from Jobs by defining their own mission and vision early on. A mission should answer the question, why does this company exist? A vision should describe where the company wants to go in the long run. For example, Tesla's mission is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy, while Airbnb's vision is to create a world where anyone can belong anywhere. These statements serve as guiding principles that help businesses make strategic decisions. Without a strong mission, companies risk becoming reactive rather than proactive, constantly shifting directions based on market fluctuations rather than leading with a clear purpose. One of the most important aspects of a strong mission and vision is that it attracts the right team and customers. People want to be part of something meaningful. Jobs was able to inspire his employees and customers because he communicated a vision that went beyond selling computers. He made them feel like they were part of a movement that was changing the world. This level of inspiration is what makes customers loyal to a brand and employees dedicated to a company's success. Entrepreneurs should strive to create a mission that excites and motivates people, rather than simply trying to sell a product or service. In the early 2000s, Apple was struggling to regain its position as a leader in the technology industry. The company had recently recovered from near bankruptcy after Steve Jobs returned as CEO in 1997, but it was still primarily known as a computer company, and its market share in the personal computer industry remained small. Around this time, Jobs recognized a massive opportunity in digital music. The music industry was undergoing a transformation, as more consumers were starting to listen to MP3 files instead of CDs. However, there was no easy and legal way to purchase and organize digital music. People were either illegally downloading songs from peer-to-peer sharing sites like Napster, or struggling with clunky MP3 players that had poor user interfaces and limited storage. Jobs saw an opportunity to create an integrated system that combined hardware, software, and services to make digital music simple and accessible. This vision eventually led to the creation of the iPod. But convincing Apple's board to pursue this new direction was not an easy task. At the time, Apple's leadership and board members were skeptical about entering the music industry. Apple was a computer company, and some board members questioned why it should invest time and resources into developing a music player when it needed to focus on improving its core business. There was also uncertainty about whether consumers would be willing to pay for music when free options were readily available. Additionally, existing MP3 players on the market were not very successful, leading many to believe that there was no significant demand for such a product. Jobs, however, was convinced that digital music would soon become the dominant way people listened to songs, and he believed that Apple had the ability to create a superior experience that could change the industry. His challenge was to persuade Apple's leadership to take a risk on an entirely new product category. To make his case, Jobs used a combination of strategic persuasion, market analysis, and his ability to paint a compelling vision of the future. He demonstrated that the existing MP3 players on the market were too complicated and poorly designed, creating an opportunity for Apple to differentiate itself by offering a product that was simple, elegant, and easy to use. He also pointed out that digital music piracy was a problem that record labels wanted to solve, and if Apple could provide a legal alternative, it could create a new business model that benefited both the company and the music industry. Jobs emphasized that Apple's strength was in integrating hardware and software, and by designing an MP3 player that worked seamlessly with iTunes, Apple could create an ecosystem that locked customers into its brand. This argument aligned with Apple's long-term strategy of building tightly controlled ecosystems, which was a key factor in persuading the board. One of the most effective tactics Jobs used was his ability to tell a story about how the iPod would change people's lives. He did not just focus on technical specifications or financial projections. Instead, he painted a picture of a world where people could carry their entire music collection in their pocket, easily navigate their songs with a simple scroll wheel, and enjoy an effortless experience that no other company could provide. He emphasized that Apple would not just be selling a device, but revolutionizing the way people experience music. This emotional appeal helped to win over skeptics by making them see the bigger picture beyond just the product itself. Jobs also had a strong understanding of timing. He knew that entering a new market too early or too late could lead to failure. He carefully analyzed market trends and recognized that the technology for small, high-capacity hard drives had recently improved, making it possible to create a compact music player with significantly more storage than existing MP3 players. He also saw that broadband internet was becoming more widespread, making it easier for people to download music legally. These factors made it the right moment to introduce a game-changing product. By presenting this analysis to the board, he reassured them that the iPod was not just a gamble, but a well-timed opportunity. After successfully persuading Apple's leadership, Jobs pushed the company to develop the iPod with a relentless focus on design and usability. When the iPod launched in 2001, it was an immediate success. It was smaller, had better storage, and was easier to use than any other MP3 player on the market. However, the real breakthrough came in 2003 when Apple launched the iTunes Store, allowing users to legally purchase and download music with just one click. This completed Jobs' vision of an integrated digital music ecosystem, and it transformed Apple from a struggling computer company into a dominant force in the entertainment industry. The iPod's success not only saved Apple, but also set the stage for future innovations like the iPhone and the App Store. For entrepreneurs, Jobs' ability to convince Apple's board to focus on the iPod provides several key lessons about defining a clear and compelling vision. One of the most important takeaways is that a vision should not just focus on a product, but on how it will improve people's lives. Jobs did not simply present the iPod as another MP3 player. He framed it as a revolutionary way to experience music, which made it easier for people to emotionally connect with the idea. Entrepreneurs should take a similar approach by defining their vision in a way that goes beyond features and specifications and instead highlights the deeper impact their product or service will have on customers. Another crucial lesson is the importance of aligning a vision with market needs. Jobs was able to foresee that digital music was the future, but he also ensured that Apple was positioned to take advantage of this shift at the right time. Entrepreneurs must be able to analyze trends, understand technological advancements, and recognize when the market is ready for their idea. A great idea launched at the wrong time can fail, just as an outdated idea can struggle to gain traction. Entrepreneurs should conduct thorough market research, identify gaps, and ensure that their vision aligns with what consumers truly want. Additionally, Jobs demonstrated the power of storytelling in gaining support for a vision. Facts and data are important, but they are not always enough to persuade investors, employees, or customers. Jobs was a master at crafting narratives that made his vision feel inevitable. Entrepreneurs should develop the ability to communicate their ideas in a way that inspires and excites others. A compelling story makes it easier to attract investors, rally a team, and build a loyal customer base. Finally, Jobs' success with the iPod highlights the importance of conviction and persistence. There will always be skeptics who doubt a new idea, but strong leaders have the ability to stay committed to their vision while also addressing legitimate concerns. Entrepreneurs should be prepared to defend their ideas with logic, evidence, and passion. They should also be willing to make adjustments when necessary, just as Jobs refined his approach by integrating the iTunes Store after recognizing that selling music was just as important as creating a great device. Steve Jobs believed that simplicity was the ultimate sophistication. He saw complexity as a burden that confused customers, slowed down innovation, and weakened products. Throughout his career, Jobs made it his mission to eliminate unnecessary complexity from Apple's products, ensuring that they were intuitive, easy to use, and elegant in their design. His obsession with simplicity was not just about aesthetics, but about creating a seamless user experience that required no instruction manual. He wanted Apple's products to feel natural, as if they simply worked without users having to think about them. This philosophy of minimalism influenced everything Apple created, from hardware to software to marketing, and became a key reason why Apple consistently stood out in the technology industry. Entrepreneurs can learn from Jobs' approach by understanding that simplicity is not about removing features, but about focusing only on what truly matters. A product or service that is cluttered with unnecessary options, buttons, or functions may seem more powerful, but in reality, it often overwhelms users and reduces the overall experience. By stripping away complexity, businesses can create offerings that are more accessible, more enjoyable, and more valuable to customers. One of the clearest examples of Jobs' commitment to simplicity was Apple's one-button philosophy. From the early days of the Macintosh to the iPhone, Jobs pushed his team to design interfaces that required the fewest possible buttons and steps. When Apple introduced the first iPod, other MP3 players had complex controls with multiple buttons for adjusting settings, skipping tracks, and browsing music libraries. Jobs challenged his team to simplify the experience, leading to the creation of the iconic scroll wheel. This design allowed users to navigate thousands of songs with just one hand, making the iPod significantly easier to use than any other music player on the market. The same philosophy guided the development of the iPhone. While most smartphones at the time had physical keyboards and multiple navigation buttons, Jobs insisted that the iPhone have only one button, the home button. This radical decision forced Apple's engineers to rethink user interaction, leading to the development of the multi-touch interface that allowed users to control everything with simple gestures. By removing unnecessary buttons and streamlining navigation, Apple created devices that felt effortless to use. Entrepreneurs should take inspiration from this by focusing on reducing friction in their products and services. Customers value ease of use, and businesses that simplify their offerings can gain a competitive advantage. Jobs' obsession with simplicity also extended to software design. He believed that computers should be intuitive, even for people who were not technologically savvy. This was a major contrast to Microsoft, which took a different approach by adding more features and customization options to its products. Microsoft's Windows operating system was known for offering extensive menus, settings, and configurations, allowing users to customize their experience, but also making it more complicated. Apple, on the other hand, prioritized ease of use over customization. Jobs insisted that macOS be designed so that anyone could pick up a Mac and start using it without confusion. This simplicity made Apple computers more appealing to creative professionals, students, and everyday consumers who did not want to deal with complicated interfaces. The same contrast can be seen in Microsoft's mobile strategy compared to Apple's. While Microsoft struggled with Windows Mobile, which required styluses and had confusing menus, Apple introduced the iPhone with a simple touch interface that eliminated unnecessary complexity. This focus on simplicity is what made Apple's products feel more refined and more enjoyable to use. Entrepreneurs should understand that while adding more features may seem like a way to attract customers, true innovation often comes from making things easier, not harder. Apple's commitment to simplicity was also reflected in its marketing and branding. Jobs believed that a company should communicate its message clearly and directly, without overwhelming customers with too much information. Many technology companies rely on technical specifications and complex descriptions to sell their products. Apple, in contrast, focused on storytelling and emotional connections. When Apple introduced the first iPod, instead of advertising its storage capacity as 5 GB of memory, the company simply said, 1,000 songs in your pocket. This simple, clear message made the product instantly understandable and appealing. The same principle applied to Apple's product packaging, which was designed to be minimal, elegant, and easy to open. Even Apple's website and advertising campaigns followed a clean, uncluttered style, reinforcing the company's brand identity. Entrepreneurs should learn from this by simplifying their messaging and ensuring that customers can instantly understand the value of their product or service. Clarity in communication builds trust and makes a brand more memorable. Jobs also applied his philosophy of minimalism to Apple's retail stores. Before Apple stores existed, most electronics retailers were cluttered with shelves of products, confusing layouts, and aggressive salespeople. Jobs wanted Apple stores to feel completely different. He designed them to be open, bright, and simple, with clean wooden tables displaying only a few carefully selected products. There were no crowded aisles, no overwhelming signage, and no pushy sales tactics. Instead, Customers were encouraged to interact with Apple products freely, experiencing them firsthand. This approach made Apple stores not just places to buy products, but places to experience the Apple brand. Entrepreneurs should consider how they can apply the principle of simplicity to their own business environments, whether it is through store design, website layout, or customer interactions. Removing unnecessary distractions and focusing on delivering a smooth, enjoyable experience can make a brand stand out. Another key aspect of Jobs' belief in simplicity was his approach to decision-making. He believed that complexity in business operations often led to inefficiency and confusion. When he returned to Apple in 1997, one of his first actions was to simplify the company's product lineup. Apple was producing multiple versions of the Macintosh, printers, digital cameras, and other accessories, which spread the company's resources too thin. Jobs cut down Apple's product line to just 4 main categories: a consumer desktop, a professional desktop, a consumer laptop, and a professional laptop. By eliminating unnecessary products, Apple was able to focus its energy on making a few great devices instead of many average ones. This strategy not only saved Apple from financial trouble, but also laid the foundation for its future success. Entrepreneurs should apply this lesson by regularly evaluating their business and identifying areas where they can simplify. Removing unnecessary products, services, or processes can improve efficiency and allow businesses to focus on delivering higher quality. Jobs also believed that simplicity was about making difficult decisions, even when they were unpopular. One of the most controversial moves Apple made was removing features that other companies considered standard. For example, Apple was one of the first companies to eliminate the floppy disk drive from its computers, replace physical keyboards with touchscreens on the iPhone, and remove the headphone jack from the iPhone. Each of these decisions was met with criticism at first, but over time they proved to be the right choices. By removing outdated or unnecessary components, Apple was able to push technology forward and create better products. Entrepreneurs should not be afraid to make bold decisions that simplify their business, even if it means going against industry norms. Sometimes, removing an unnecessary element can create a better experience for customers. When Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone in 2007, he did not just launch another smartphone. He completely disrupted the mobile phone industry by redefining what a phone could be. Before the iPhone, mobile phones were dominated by physical keyboards, small screens, and complicated navigation systems. Companies like BlackBerry, Nokia, and Motorola were industry leaders, and their devices relied on buttons for nearly every function. Jobs saw this as unnecessary complexity and believed that the future of mobile devices lay in simplicity. Instead of designing a phone with a keyboard, he and his team at Apple created a device that relied entirely on a touchscreen, removing nearly all physical buttons. This bold decision was met with skepticism at the time, but it became one of the defining features of the iPhone and set the new standard for the entire mobile industry. The success of the iPhone proves that simplifying a product can lead to massive market disruption and long-term business success. Entrepreneurs can apply these lessons by learning how to simplify their business strategies, refine product design, and create branding that maximizes impact. Before the iPhone, the biggest names in mobile phones were focused on adding more buttons, shortcuts, and features to their devices. BlackBerry was especially dominant in the business world because of its physical keyboard, which made email and messaging easier. Nokia and Motorola had models with full keyboards or multiple physical navigation buttons. The common belief in the industry was that users needed tactile buttons for accuracy and efficiency, but Jobs and Apple saw these designs as outdated and limiting. Instead of allowing the hardware to dictate what a phone could do, Jobs wanted to create a device where software controlled the experience. He envisioned a phone where users could interact directly with the screen, eliminating the need for buttons entirely. This idea led to the development of the iPhone's multi-touch display, which allowed users to scroll, zoom, and type with simple finger gestures. It was a radical departure from everything that existed at the time, and it changed how people interacted with mobile technology forever. One of the key reasons why the iPhone's removal of buttons was so disruptive was that it simplified the user experience. Traditional phones required users to memorize complex button combinations to perform basic tasks. For example, navigating a menu often required pressing multiple buttons in sequence, and texting on a non-QWERTY keypad involved pressing the same key multiple times to get the right letter. Apple solved this problem by creating a touchscreen interface that was intuitive and required no learning curve. Instead of pressing a series of keys, users could simply tap on icons or swipe to navigate. The keyboard only appeared when needed, giving users more screen space for viewing content. This simplification made the iPhone accessible to a much wider audience than previous smartphones, including people who had never used a mobile device before. Entrepreneurs can take inspiration from this by focusing on how they can simplify their own products or services to make them more user-friendly. Customers are more likely to engage with and remain loyal to a business that removes unnecessary friction from their experience. The elimination of buttons also had a major impact on product design. Traditional phones had to be designed around their physical keyboards and navigation buttons, which limited their form factor. The iPhone, by removing these elements, allowed for a much sleeker, more modern design with a larger screen. This decision paved the way for the smartphone era, where displays became the most important aspect of mobile devices. It also influenced how applications were designed. Developers no longer had to work within the constraints of physical buttons, but could create interactive and visually engaging apps that took advantage of the full screen. This shift led to the rise of the App Store, which became a massive ecosystem for mobile applications. Entrepreneurs should recognize that simplifying product design can often lead to entirely new opportunities. By removing unnecessary elements, businesses can create new possibilities for innovation that were not previously available. Another important aspect of the iPhone's success was how Apple refined its branding to emphasize simplicity and elegance. Apple positioned the iPhone as more than just a phone. It was marketed as a revolutionary device that combined three products into one: a phone, an iPod, and an internet communicator. This messaging was clear, direct, and powerful, making it easy for consumers to understand the value of the product. Apple also ensured that the iPhone's branding and packaging reflected its minimalist philosophy. The phone's interface had a clean, uncluttered look. Its ads focused on how easy it was to use, and even the packaging was designed to create a seamless unboxing experience. This approach reinforced Apple's image as a company that prioritized simplicity and user experience above all else. Entrepreneurs can learn from this by making sure that their branding and messaging align with their core business values. A product or service that is designed with simplicity should also be marketed with clarity. The easier it is for customers to understand the value of a business, the more likely they are to engage with it. Apple's decision to remove buttons also demonstrated the importance of being bold in business strategy. Many companies hesitate to remove features, fearing that customers will resist change. But Jobs understood that customers do not always know what they want until they experience it. When Apple introduced the iPhone, critics were skeptical about the lack of buttons, arguing that business users would not give up physical keyboards. Some even predicted that the iPhone would fail because of this decision. But Apple stayed true to its vision, and once people experienced the benefits of a button-free interface, they never wanted to go back. Within a few years, nearly every major phone manufacturer followed Apple's lead, eliminating physical keyboards and focusing on touchscreen design. Entrepreneurs should remember that sometimes the best business decisions involve removing unnecessary complexity, even if it means going against conventional wisdom. True innovation often requires taking risks and trusting in a strong vision. The impact of the iPhone's simplicity extended beyond just mobile phones. Its influence can be seen in a wide range of industries, from tablets to smartwatches to home automation. The iPad, which followed the iPhone, applied the same philosophy of a touchscreen-based interface with no unnecessary buttons, making it the dominant tablet in the market. Apple's approach to simplicity also influenced competitors like Google, which refined its Android operating system to be more user-friendly. Even non-tech industries have learned from Apple's strategy, with companies in retail, automotive, and finance applying minimalist design principles to their products and services. This demonstrates that the power of simplicity is not limited to technology. Entrepreneurs in any field can benefit from streamlining their offerings, making them more accessible, and focusing on the core value they provide to customers. Another key takeaway from Apple's success with the iPhone is the importance of controlling the entire user experience. Unlike competitors that relied on third-party hardware manufacturers, Apple kept full control over both the hardware and software of the iPhone. This allowed Apple to create a product where every detail, from the display to the operating system to the App Store, was designed to work together seamlessly. Many companies fail because they try to do too much at once or depend on external partners that do not share their vision for quality. Entrepreneurs should consider how they can maintain control over their products and services to ensure a consistent and high-quality customer experience. Even if outsourcing certain aspects of a business is necessary, maintaining strict quality control is essential for long-term success. In the early 2000s, Apple was struggling to regain its position as a leader in the technology industry. The company had recently recovered from near bankruptcy after Steve Jobs returned as CEO in 1997, but it was still primarily known as a computer company, and its market share in the personal computer industry remained small. Around this time, Jobs recognized a massive opportunity in digital music. The music industry was undergoing a transformation as more consumers were starting to listen to MP3 files instead of CDs. However, there was no easy and legal way to purchase and organize digital music. People were either illegally downloading songs from peer-to-peer sharing sites like Napster or struggling with clunky MP3 players that had poor user interfaces and limited storage. Jobs saw an opportunity to create an integrated system that combined hardware, software, and services to make digital music simple and accessible. This vision eventually led to the creation of the iPod. But convincing Apple's board to pursue this new direction was not an easy task. At the time, Apple's leadership and board members were skeptical about entering the music industry. Apple was a computer company, and some board members questioned why it should invest time and resources into developing a music player when it needed to focus on improving its core business. There was also uncertainty about whether consumers would be willing to pay for music when free options were readily available. Additionally, existing MP3 players on the market were not very successful, leading many to believe that there was no significant demand for such a product. Jobs, however, was convinced that digital music would soon become the dominant way people listened to songs, and he believed that Apple had the ability to create a superior experience that could change the industry. His challenge was to persuade Apple's leadership to take a risk on an entirely new product category. To make his case, Jobs used a combination of strategic persuasion, market analysis, and his ability to paint a compelling vision of the future. He demonstrated that the existing MP3 players on the market were too complicated and poorly designed, creating an opportunity for Apple to differentiate itself by offering a product that was simple, elegant, and easy to use. He also pointed out that digital music piracy was a problem that record labels wanted to solve, and if Apple could provide a legal alternative, it could create a new business model that benefited both the company and the music industry. Jobs emphasized that Apple's strength was in integrating hardware and software, and by designing an MP3 player that worked seamlessly with iTunes, Apple could create an ecosystem that locked customers into its brand. This argument aligned with Apple's long-term strategy of building tightly controlled ecosystems, which was a key factor in persuading the board. One of the most effective tactics Jobs used was his ability to tell a story about how the iPod would change people's lives. He did not just focus on technical specifications or financial projections. Instead, he painted a picture of a world where people could carry their entire music collection in their pocket, easily navigate their songs with a simple scroll wheel, and enjoy an effortless experience that no other company could provide. He emphasized that Apple would not just be selling a device, but revolutionizing the way people experienced music. This emotional appeal helped to win over skeptics by making them see the bigger picture beyond just the product itself. Jobs also had a strong understanding of timing. He knew that entering a new market too early or too late could lead to failure. He carefully analyzed market trends and recognized that the technology for small, high-capacity hard drives had recently improved, making it possible to create a compact music player with significantly more storage than existing MP3 players. He also saw that broadband internet was becoming more widespread, making it easier for people to download music legally. These factors made it the right moment to introduce a game-changing product. By presenting this analysis to the board, he reassured them that the iPod was not just a gamble, but a well-timed opportunity. After successfully persuading Apple's leadership, Jobs pushed the company to develop the iPod with a relentless focus on design and usability. When the iPod launched in 2001, it was an immediate success. It was smaller, had better storage, and was easier to use than any other MP3 player on the market. However, the real breakthrough came in 2003 when Apple launched the iTunes Store, allowing users to legally purchase and download music with just one click. This completed Jobs' vision of an integrated digital music ecosystem, and it transformed Apple from a struggling computer company into a dominant force in the entertainment industry. The iPod's success not only saved Apple, but also set the stage for future innovations like the iPhone and the App Store. For entrepreneurs, Jobs' ability to convince Apple's board to focus on the iPod provides several key lessons about defining a clear and compelling vision. One of the most important takeaways is that a vision should not just focus on a product, but on how it will improve people's lives. Jobs did not simply present the iPod as another MP3 player. He framed it as a revolutionary way to experience music, which made it easier for people to emotionally connect with the idea. Entrepreneurs should take a similar approach by defining their vision in a way that goes beyond features and specifications, and instead highlights the deeper impact their product or service will have on customers. Another crucial lesson is the importance of aligning a vision with market needs. Jobs was able to foresee that digital music was the future, but he also ensured that Apple was positioned to take advantage of this shift at the right time. Entrepreneurs must be able to analyze trends, understand technological advancements, and recognize when the market is ready for their idea. A great idea launched at the wrong time can fail, just as an outdated idea can struggle to gain traction. Entrepreneurs should conduct thorough market research, identify gaps, and ensure that their vision aligns with what consumers truly want. Additionally, Jobs demonstrated the power of storytelling in gaining support for a vision. Facts and data are important, but they are not always enough to persuade investors, employees, or customers. Jobs was a master at crafting narratives that made his vision feel inevitable. Entrepreneurs should develop the ability to communicate their ideas in a way that inspires and excites others. A compelling story makes it easier to attract investors, rally a team, and build a loyal customer base. Finally, Jobs' success with the iPod highlights the importance of conviction and persistence. There will always be skeptics who doubt a new idea, but strong leaders have the ability to stay committed to their vision while also addressing legitimate concerns. Entrepreneurs should be prepared to defend their ideas with logic, evidence, and passion. They should also be willing to make adjustments when necessary. Just as Jobs refined his approach by integrating the iTunes Store, after recognizing that selling music was just as important as creating a great device. When Steve Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, the company was in deep financial trouble. It was on the verge of bankruptcy, struggling with declining sales, and had lost its sense of direction. Apple had become a company that was producing far too many products, including multiple variations of Macintosh computers, printers, digital cameras, and other accessories, most of which were not selling well. Customers were confused by the overwhelming number of choices, and Apple's marketing efforts were scattered across too many product lines. The company had no clear focus, and as a result, it was losing money and market relevance. Jobs immediately saw that Apple needed to change its strategy if it wanted to survive. He understood that a business cannot succeed by trying to do too many things at once. Instead, it must focus on a few key products and make them the best in the industry. His solution was simple but revolutionary. He drastically cut down Apple's product line and redirected the company's efforts toward a small number of exceptional products. This decision not only saved Apple, but also turned it into one of the most successful companies in history. One of the first major steps Jobs took to refocus Apple was the introduction of the iMac in 1998. At the time, Apple's computer lineup was confusing, with multiple models that had unclear differences. Jobs eliminated nearly all of them and focused on creating one standout product. The iMac was designed to be simple, beautiful, and easy to use, which aligned perfectly with Apple's mission to make technology more accessible. Unlike other personal computers, which were usually bulky and dull-looking, the iMac had a sleek, colorful design that stood out in the market. Jobs understood that consumers were not just looking for functionality, but also for products that were visually appealing and intuitive. The iMac was an instant success, selling nearly 800,000 units in its first 5 months. This proved that Jobs' strategy of focusing on fewer products with better design and functionality was the right approach. After the success of the iMac, Jobs turned his attention to another industry that was undergoing a major shift. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, digital music was becoming more popular, but there was no easy way for consumers to legally purchase and organize their music. People were either downloading songs illegally or using complicated MP3 players that had poor user interfaces and limited storage. Jobs saw an opportunity to create a product that would revolutionize the way people listened to music. Instead of trying to develop multiple different music-related products, he focused entirely on creating one perfect device. This led to the launch of the iPod in 2001. The iPod was designed to be simple, elegant, and easy to use, with a scroll wheel that made navigating through songs effortless. More importantly, it was not just a music player. Jobs had a larger vision of creating an entire ecosystem for digital music. In 2003, Apple launched the iTunes Store, allowing users to buy songs legally and sync them seamlessly with their iPods. This combination of hardware and software transformed Apple from a computer company into a leader in digital media. The iPod became a massive success, selling millions of units and making Apple a dominant force in the music industry. Despite the success of the iMac and iPod, Jobs did not allow Apple to lose focus by expanding into too many different areas. Instead, he concentrated on one more major product that would redefine the future of technology. In the early 2000s, mobile phones were becoming more advanced, but they were still difficult to use. Most smartphones at the time had physical keyboards and clunky software that made them frustrating for consumers. Jobs saw an opportunity to create a phone that was completely different from anything else on the market. Instead of adding another product to Apple's growing lineup, he focused on creating one perfect device that combined a phone, an iPod, and an internet browser in a single package. The result was the iPhone, which launched in 2007 and changed the entire mobile phone industry. Jobs insisted on making the iPhone as simple and intuitive as possible. He eliminated unnecessary buttons, introduced a multi-touch screen, and built an app store that allowed third-party developers to create applications. The iPhone was an instant hit, and it set the foundation for Apple's future success. Today, the iPhone remains one of the most profitable and influential products in the world. Jobs' decision to focus only on a few products instead of spreading Apple's resources across multiple areas was the key to the company's turnaround. He understood that businesses often fail because they try to do too much at once. Entrepreneurs can learn valuable lessons from this approach. The first lesson is that businesses should focus their efforts without distractions. Many entrepreneurs get excited by new opportunities and try to launch multiple products or services at the same time. This often leads to confusion, wasted resources, and poor execution. Instead of trying to cater to every possible market, entrepreneurs should concentrate on a few key areas where they can truly excel. By narrowing their focus, they can allocate their resources more effectively, refine their products, and build a strong brand identity. It is better to dominate one market than to struggle in several. Another important lesson is how to eliminate unnecessary projects and prioritize effectively. Jobs was ruthless when it came to cutting projects that did not align with Apple's core mission. He was not afraid to say no to ideas that seemed interesting but did not contribute to Apple's long-term vision. Entrepreneurs should take a similar approach by regularly evaluating their business activities and identifying areas that are not adding value. If a product or service is not performing well, it may be better to discontinue it and focus on something that has greater potential. This requires making tough decisions, but in the long run, it allows businesses to grow more efficiently. Prioritization also involves recognizing which opportunities are worth pursuing and which ones should be avoided. Jobs had many opportunities to expand Apple into different industries, but he carefully chose only those that aligned with Apple's strengths. Entrepreneurs should be strategic about where they invest their time and resources. Just because an opportunity seems promising does not mean it is the right fit for a business. It is essential to evaluate whether a new project aligns with the company's core competencies and long-term goals before committing to it. Another critical takeaway from Jobs' approach is the importance of refining a product to perfection before launching it. He did not believe in rushing to market with half-finished ideas. Instead, he took the time to ensure that every product Apple released was carefully designed and thoroughly tested. Entrepreneurs should apply this principle by focusing on quality over quantity. Instead of launching multiple products quickly, they should dedicate their time to perfecting a single product that truly stands out. Consumers appreciate well-designed products and services that offer real value, and businesses that prioritize excellence tend to build stronger customer loyalty. Jobs also understood that having fewer products made it easier to create a powerful brand identity. Apple's marketing was always clear and focused because the company had a limited number of products to promote. Consumers knew exactly what Apple stood for, and this consistency helped build trust and excitement around the brand. Entrepreneurs should aim for the same clarity in their businesses. When a company is known for doing one thing exceptionally well, it becomes easier to attract customers and build a loyal following. Steve Jobs was a firm believer in the idea that passion is the key to overcoming obstacles in business and life. He often spoke about how the only way to do truly great work is to love what you do, because without passion, people give up when faced with difficulties. Building a business is not a smooth journey, and entrepreneurs will inevitably encounter setbacks, financial struggles, competition, and personal doubts. Jobs understood that only those who are deeply passionate about their work have the resilience to push through these challenges. His own journey was filled with obstacles, from being forced out of Apple in 1985 to facing failure with his company Next, before eventually returning to Apple and leading it to historic success. Throughout these struggles, Jobs never lost his passion for innovation and design. His love for creating great products kept him motivated even in the darkest moments of his career. This belief in passion as a driving force was evident not only in his own life, but also in the way he built Apple. He surrounded himself with people who shared the same intense enthusiasm for technology, design, and customer experience. He understood that a company's success depends on hiring people who are not just skilled, but who genuinely love their work. Jobs did not want employees who were simply looking for a paycheck. He wanted people who cared deeply about their craft, whether it was software engineering, industrial design, marketing, or customer support. He often said that the best employees were those who would do their work, even if they were not getting paid for it, because they enjoyed it so much. This mindset created a culture of excellence at Apple, where every product was crafted with attention to detail and a sense of purpose. Entrepreneurs can learn from Jobs' belief in passion as a tool for overcoming obstacles by ensuring that they build businesses around something they truly care about. Running a company requires long hours, constant problem solving, and the ability to handle failure. If an entrepreneur is only in business for money, they are more likely to quit when things get tough. Passion provides the energy and motivation to keep going even when success seems far away. It also fuels creativity, allowing entrepreneurs to find innovative solutions to problems. Jobs' unwavering commitment to Apple's mission helped him push through times when others would have given up. When he returned to Apple in 1997, the company was nearly bankrupt, its product lineup was confusing, and its reputation was fading. Many executives might have chosen to cut losses and move on to another job, but Jobs was passionate about Apple's potential. He believed in the company's ability to create world-changing products, and that belief kept him focused on finding a way to turn things around. Passion gave him the determination to eliminate unnecessary distractions, make difficult decisions, and inspire his team to do their best work. It was this passion that led to the creation of the iMac, iPod, iPhone, and iPad, which redefined entire industries. Jobs' emphasis on passion was not just about his own work. He actively sought out employees who shared the same deep level of enthusiasm. He knew that passionate people do not need to be micromanaged because they take ownership of their work. They push themselves to achieve greatness because they genuinely care about what they are creating. This belief influenced Apple's hiring practices. Jobs was known for conducting intense interviews, where he would test a candidate's love for their work. He often asked questions about why they chose their career path, what excites them about their industry, and whether they were willing to challenge conventional thinking. He looked for people who had a natural curiosity and a strong desire to make a difference. If a candidate lacked enthusiasm or seemed more interested in job security than in pushing boundaries, they were not the right fit for Apple. Entrepreneurs can apply this lesson by ensuring that they build teams of individuals who are passionate about their roles. When employees love their work, they are more productive, more creative, and more willing to go the extra mile. Passionate employees bring energy to the company, help create a culture of innovation, and contribute to long-term success. A business that is built by people who are deeply engaged in their work has a much higher chance of overcoming obstacles and achieving greatness. The idea that passion plays a crucial role in overcoming challenges is not just based on anecdotal evidence from Jobs' life. Psychological research supports this idea as well. One of the most well-known studies on this topic was conducted by Angela Duckworth, a psychologist who studied the role of grit in success. Duckworth's research found that talent and intelligence alone do not determine long-term achievement. Instead, perseverance and passion for a long-term goal are the most important factors. She defined grit as the combination of passion and perseverance, explaining that people who love what they do are more likely to stick with it, even when they face setbacks. Duckworth conducted studies across different fields, from business to education to sports, and found that individuals with high levels of grit were more likely to achieve their goals than those who relied solely on talent. Her findings reinforce the idea that passion is what keeps people moving forward when faced with difficulties. Entrepreneurs can learn from this research by understanding that success is not about having a perfect idea or an easy path. It is about staying committed to a vision despite obstacles, failures, and rejections. Jobs embodied this idea throughout his career. Even when his ideas were met with resistance, he continued to believe in them. When the iPhone was first proposed, many people doubted that a touchscreen phone without a physical keyboard would succeed. Competitors laughed at the idea, and even within Apple there were skeptics. But Jobs had an unshakable belief in his vision, and his passion for creating a better user experience drove him to prove the doubters wrong. The iPhone eventually became one of the most successful products in history. Another key takeaway from Duckworth's research is that passion is not just about excitement in the early stages of a project. It is about long-term commitment. Many entrepreneurs start their businesses with enthusiasm, but that initial excitement fades when they encounter challenges such as financial struggles, competition, or operational difficulties. Those who succeed are the ones who continue to push forward even when the excitement wears off. Jobs never lost sight of his passion for technology and design, even after decades in the industry. He stayed committed to Apple's mission from the company's early days in his garage to its rise as a global powerhouse. This long-term passion allowed him to create products that changed the world. For entrepreneurs, the key lesson is that passion is not just a motivational phrase. It is a real factor that determines success. Passion gives entrepreneurs the strength to push through obstacles, the creativity to find solutions, and the resilience to keep moving forward despite setbacks. It helps build businesses that stand the test of time. Passionate leaders inspire their teams, attract loyal customers, and create products or services that have a lasting impact. This is why Jobs believed so strongly in hiring people who love what they do. When an entire company is driven by passion, it creates a culture where innovation thrives and obstacles become stepping stones rather than roadblocks. Entrepreneurs should take this lesson to heart by ensuring that their businesses are built on a foundation of passion. They should choose industries or projects that excite them, hire employees who share that enthusiasm, and stay committed to their vision even when things get difficult. Passion is what separates those who give up from those who change the world. Jobs proved this throughout his career, and the research confirms that it is one of the most important factors in long-term success. In 1985, Steve Jobs faced what many would consider the ultimate professional failure. He was fired from Apple, the very company he had co-founded in his parents' garage. At the time, Apple was struggling with internal conflicts, and tensions between Jobs and then CEO John Sculley had reached a breaking point. Jobs had been instrumental in developing the Macintosh, but after its initial sales did not meet expectations, Apple's board began to lose confidence in his leadership. Sculley and the board believed Jobs was too impulsive and difficult to manage. Eventually, Jobs was stripped of his power, and with no real influence left in the company, he resigned. For many, this would have been the end of a career, but for Jobs, it was the beginning of a new chapter that would shape him into the leader who would later return to Apple and make it the most valuable company in the world. After leaving Apple, Jobs could have easily given up or taken a comfortable role at another company. But instead, he followed his passion for building groundbreaking technology. He founded a new company called Next, which aimed to create high-end computers for education and business. Jobs wanted next to build the most advanced computer in the world, and he poured his energy into designing a machine that was far ahead of its time. The next computer was beautifully designed, had a powerful operating system, and introduced several innovations, including object-oriented programming and high-resolution displays. However, the product was expensive and struggled to gain a large customer base. Although Next computers did not achieve commercial success, the technology it developed would later become crucial in shaping Apple's modern operating systems. When Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, Apple acquired Next for its software, and Next Step, the operating system developed at Next, became the foundation for macOS, iOS, and all of Apple's modern devices. What seemed like a failure at the time turned out to be one of the most important stepping stones in Jobs' career. While working on Next, Jobs also made another decision that would change his future. In 1986, he purchased a small graphics division from filmmaker George Lucas for $10 million. This company would later become Pixar, the animation studio that revolutionized the movie industry. At the time, Pixar was not focused on making animated films, but was instead selling high-end computer graphics hardware. Jobs saw potential in Pixar's technology, but the company was losing money. Instead of shutting it down, he supported its creative team, including John Lasseter, Ed Catmull, and other visionary artists, who believed that computer-generated animation could be the future of filmmaking. Jobs shifted Pixar's focus from hardware to storytelling, and after years of struggle, the company produced its first full-length animated film, Toy Story, in 1995. The movie was a groundbreaking success and changed the way animated films were made. Pixar went on to produce some of the most beloved films in history, including Finding Nemo, The Incredibles, and Up. Jobs' investment in Pixar not only proved to be a wise business decision, but also demonstrated his ability to turn failure into opportunity. In 2006, Pixar was acquired by Disney for over $7 billion, making Jobs the largest individual shareholder of Disney at the time. The story of Jobs' firing from Apple and his journey with Next and Pixar provides valuable lessons for entrepreneurs about finding passion and turning failure into a stepping stone for success. One of the biggest takeaways from this experience is the importance of finding and integrating passion into business. Jobs did not start Next and invest in Pixar simply as financial moves. He genuinely loved technology, design, and storytelling. Even after being pushed out of Apple, he continued to follow his interests rather than taking a safe or conventional path. Entrepreneurs should take inspiration from this by choosing to build businesses in areas that excite them. Passion is what sustains entrepreneurs through difficult times. If Jobs had simply pursued a business for financial gain without any real interest in it, he might have given up when faced with challenges. Instead, his passion for innovation kept him pushing forward even when Next was struggling, or when Pixar had not yet produced a successful film. Another critical lesson from Jobs' journey is how to handle failure and use it as a stepping stone. Many entrepreneurs fear failure, seeing it as the end of the road. However, Jobs showed that failure can actually lead to greater success if approached with the right mindset. When he was fired from Apple, he later admitted that it was one of the best things that ever happened to him, because it forced him to rethink his approach, take risks, and explore new opportunities. Instead of viewing failure as a personal defeat, he treated it as a learning experience. He used his time at Next to refine his leadership skills, improve his ability to build strong teams, and gain a better understanding of business strategy. By the time he returned to Apple, he was a more experienced and disciplined leader. Entrepreneurs should embrace setbacks as part of the journey. Failure is not a sign that someone is not capable. It is simply a temporary obstacle that provides valuable lessons. Every failed business, rejected idea, or unsuccessful product launch offers insights that can be used to build something better in the future. Jobs' story also highlights the importance of resilience and long-term thinking. He did not let short-term failures define him. He played the long game, investing in ideas and projects that took years to bear fruit. Entrepreneurs should take a similar approach by focusing on long-term goals rather than being discouraged by short-term difficulties. Success rarely happens overnight. It requires persistence, continuous learning, and the ability to adapt when things do not go as planned. Jobs could have quit after Next failed to gain traction in the market, but instead he refined the company's technology, which ultimately led to the creation of the software that would power Apple's future. Likewise, Pixar could have been shut down when it was losing money, but Jobs had the vision to see its potential and stuck with it until it became an animation powerhouse. Another key lesson from Jobs' experience is that failure often leads to unexpected opportunities. If he had never been fired from Apple, he might never have started Next. And without Next, Apple's modern operating system would not exist. If he had never invested in Pixar, he might not have realized the power of storytelling and creative collaboration, which influenced how Apple later approached marketing and product design. Entrepreneurs should recognize that setbacks often open doors to new possibilities. What seems like a failure today may turn out to be the foundation for future success. For business owners, another important takeaway is the value of learning from mistakes. Jobs did not return to Apple as the same leader he was in the 1980s. When he first ran Apple, he was known for being aggressive, impatient, and sometimes difficult to work with. However, his time at Next and Pixar taught him valuable leadership skills, including the importance of teamwork, patience, and strategic decision-making. Entrepreneurs should use their failures as an opportunity for self-reflection. Instead of blaming external factors when things go wrong, they should analyze what they could have done differently and use those lessons to improve. Jobs' experience shows that passion and resilience are the true drivers of success. He turned what could have been the biggest failure of his career into the foundation for his greatest achievements. He never let obstacles stop him, and he always pursued work that he loved. Entrepreneurs should take this as a reminder that setbacks are not the end of the road. They are simply part of the journey. By staying passionate, learning from failures, and remaining committed to long-term goals, business owners can turn even the most difficult situations into opportunities for growth and success. Jobs' story is proof that sometimes the biggest failures lead to the greatest triumphs. Steve Jobs was always known for his rebellious nature and his strong belief in challenging the status quo. From the very beginning of his career, he rejected conventional thinking and refused to accept the way things had always been done. He believed that progress and innovation came from questioning existing norms rather than blindly following them. This mindset was one of the key reasons Apple was able to revolutionize multiple industries, from personal computing to music, smartphones, and retail. Jobs did not see himself as just another businessman trying to compete within an industry. He saw himself as a disruptor, someone who was going to change the world by creating products that defied expectations and redefined how people interacted with technology. His rebellious spirit was evident in Apple's early years when he insisted that computers should be designed for everyday people rather than just corporations and technical experts. At a time when most computers were large, expensive, and difficult to use, Jobs envisioned a world where technology was simple, beautiful, and accessible. This belief drove him to create products that were not just functional, but also emotionally compelling, setting Apple apart from every other tech company. One of the most powerful examples of Jobs' belief in challenging the status quo came in 1984, when Apple launched one of the most famous commercials in advertising history. At the time, the personal computer industry was dominated by IBM, a massive corporation that had established itself as the leader in business computing. IBM's machines were widely used in offices, and its influence over the industry was so strong that people often referred to IBM as Big Blue, symbolizing its overwhelming presence. Many saw IBM as an unstoppable force that controlled the future of computing. But Jobs saw things differently. He believed that IBM represented an old way of thinking, one where technology was designed for businesses rather than individuals. He wanted Apple to be the company that empowered people by giving them control over their own computers. To announce the launch of the Macintosh, Jobs and his team created a commercial that directly challenged IBM's dominance and positioned Apple as the company that would free people from technological oppression. The commercial, which aired during the Super Bowl on January 22, 1984, was inspired by George Orwell's novel 1984, which depicted a dystopian society controlled by a totalitarian regime. In the ad, a group of people dressed in dull gray uniforms sits in a dark room, staring blankly at a giant screen, where a figure resembling IBM's corporate leadership delivers a speech. The scene is lifeless, symbolizing conformity and control. Suddenly, a female athlete wearing bright red shorts and a white tank top runs into the room, carrying a sledgehammer. She represents Apple, the force of rebellion and change. As the speech on the screen continues, she swings the sledgehammer and smashes the screen, breaking the hold of the oppressive system. The ad ends with a powerful message announcing that Apple would introduce the Macintosh on January 24, 1984, and that the world would never be the same again. The impact of this commercial was immediate and unforgettable. It positioned Apple as the anti-establishment company, the one that was willing to challenge the most powerful forces in the industry. Unlike traditional advertising, which focused on product features, this commercial told a story. It painted Apple as a revolutionary movement, not just a computer company. The ad resonated deeply with consumers who wanted to feel like they were part of something bigger. It gave people a reason to choose Apple over IBM, not just because of technology, but because of what the brand represented. The Macintosh itself was a groundbreaking product, being one of the first personal computers to feature a graphical user interface and a mouse, making computing more intuitive and accessible. But it was the spirit of rebellion behind the product that truly captured people's imaginations. For entrepreneurs, this case study highlights the importance of questioning industry norms and daring to be different. Many businesses fail because they try to compete within the existing rules rather than redefining the game. Jobs understood that the most successful companies are the ones that disrupt industries rather than simply improving on what already exists. Entrepreneurs should not be afraid to challenge traditional ways of thinking. Instead of asking how they can do something slightly better than their competitors, they should ask whether the entire system needs to be reimagined. Breakthroughs happen when people are willing to take risks and question assumptions that others accept as unchangeable. One of the key lessons from Jobs' approach is that branding and storytelling are just as important as the product itself. The 1984 commercial did not focus on the technical details of the Macintosh. It focused on the idea that Apple represented freedom, creativity, and rebellion against the status quo. This emotional connection made people feel like buying a Macintosh was more than just a purchase. It was a statement. Entrepreneurs should think about how their businesses can create a narrative that resonates with their customers. People do not just buy products. They buy into ideas, movements, and identities. By crafting a story that challenges conventional thinking and inspires people, businesses can build loyal communities that go beyond transactional relationships. Another critical takeaway is that timing matters when challenging the status quo. The reason Apple's 1984 commercial was so powerful was that it came at a time when the world was ready for a new way of thinking about computers. If Apple had tried to make this statement too early, people might not have been receptive to it. Entrepreneurs need to understand when the market is prepared for disruption They should look for signs that an industry is becoming stagnant, that customers are frustrated with existing solutions, or that new technology is making old business models obsolete. Timing a bold move correctly can make the difference between being ignored and creating a revolution. Jobs' rebellious nature also teaches entrepreneurs the value of confidence and conviction. Challenging the status quo is not easy. It often means facing resistance from industry leaders, investors, and even customers who are used to doing things a certain way. Jobs never hesitated to stand by his vision, even when others doubted him. He was confident that Apple was on the right path, and he was willing to take risks to prove it. Entrepreneurs need to have the same level of belief in their ideas. If they wait for validation from others before making bold moves, they will always be followers rather than leaders. True innovation requires the courage to trust one's instincts and push forward, even when the path is uncertain. Another important lesson from this case study is that disruption does not always come from creating something completely new. Apple did not invent the personal computer. IBM was already selling computers long before the Macintosh. But Jobs saw an opportunity to challenge how people used computers and who had access to them. Similarly, entrepreneurs do not always need to create entirely new industries to be successful. Sometimes, the greatest breakthroughs come from rethinking existing markets and finding ways to serve customers better than anyone else. Ultimately, the story of Apple's 1984 commercial and Jobs' belief in challenging the status quo is a reminder that success comes from daring to be different. Playing it safe rarely leads to groundbreaking achievements. Entrepreneurs who want to make a lasting impact should question assumptions, challenge outdated systems, and find ways to disrupt their industries. Whether it is through innovative products, bold marketing, or redefining customer experiences, those who are willing to think differently are the ones who change the world. Jobs proved that rebellion, when driven by vision and purpose, is not just about going against the grain. It is about creating something that inspires people, reshapes industries, and leaves a lasting legacy. Entrepreneurs who embrace this mindset can build businesses that are not only successful, but also revolutionary. When Steve Jobs decided that Apple needed its own retail stores, many people thought he was making a mistake. At the time, technology companies typically sold their products through third-party retailers, such as electronics stores, office supply chains, and department stores. The common belief in the industry was that opening branded retail stores was too expensive and unnecessary because most people were already used to buying computers from established retailers. But Jobs saw a fundamental problem with this approach. He believed that the way technology products were being sold was confusing, frustrating, and uninspiring for customers. Most electronics stores were cluttered, with rows of computers, printers, and accessories stacked on shelves with little guidance on how to use them. Salespeople often lacked deep knowledge about the products and were more focused on selling what had the highest profit margins rather than what was best for the customer. Jobs knew that Apple's products were different, and he wanted the experience of buying them to be just as unique as using them. Instead of following the industry norm, he set out to completely rethink what a technology retail store could be. The idea of Apple opening its own stores was met with skepticism, even within the company. Some executives feared that it would be a costly failure. At the time, major computer companies such as Gateway had already attempted to open their own branded stores, but most of them had failed. Analysts warned that Apple was making a risky move by investing in physical retail locations instead of focusing on online sales or expanding partnerships with existing retailers. But Jobs was convinced that Apple needed a place where customers could fully experience its products in a way that was not possible in traditional electronics stores. He believed that the best way to sell Apple products was not through advertisements or promotions, but by letting people see, touch, and use them in an environment that reflected Apple's values of simplicity, elegance, and innovation. To make sure the Apple Store concept was executed perfectly, Jobs took an unconventional approach. Instead of rushing into opening stores, he built a full-scale prototype inside a warehouse to experiment with different layouts and designs. He spent months refining every detail, from the lighting and furniture to the flow of foot traffic inside the store. Jobs wanted to create a space where customers could interact with Apple products in a relaxed and welcoming environment. He eliminated the traditional checkout counters found in most retail stores and replaced them with employees using handheld devices to process purchases anywhere in the store. He also introduced the Genius Bar, a dedicated space where customers could get expert technical support, which made visiting an Apple store about more than just buying a product. Jobs believed that Apple stores should not feel like traditional retail locations, but instead be like a place where people could come to learn, explore, and be inspired by technology. When the first Apple Store opened in 2001, many analysts predicted that it would fail. They believed that Apple was making the same mistake as Gateway, which had struggled with its retail stores. But the Apple Store was an immediate success. On its opening weekend, thousands of customers lined up to visit, and sales exceeded expectations. The design of the stores, combined with the hands-on experience of trying Apple products, created a retail environment that people enjoyed visiting. Instead of feeling like they were being pressured to make a purchase, customers felt like they were exploring a creative space. The Apple Store quickly became a key part of Apple's strategy, helping the company build strong customer loyalty and giving it complete control over how its products were presented and sold. Over time, Apple stores became some of the most profitable retail spaces in the world, generating more revenue per square foot than any other retailer, including luxury brands. Today, Apple stores are an essential part of Apple's brand identity and continue to be a major driver of the company's success. For entrepreneurs, the story of how Jobs rethought retail stores offers valuable lessons on how to challenge norms in any industry. One of the most important takeaways is that just because something has always been done a certain way, does not mean it is the best way. Jobs recognized that traditional electronic stores were not serving customers in the best possible way, so he set out to create something better. Entrepreneurs should always be willing to question industry norms and look for ways to improve existing business models. Instead of assuming that the standard way of doing things is the only way, business owners should ask themselves if there is a better way to serve their customers. This kind of thinking often leads to groundbreaking innovations that disrupt entire industries. Another lesson from Jobs' approach to retail is the importance of putting the customer experience first. The reason Apple stores became so successful was that they were designed around what customers needed rather than what was convenient for the company. Jobs understood that buying technology could be overwhelming for many people, so he created a store environment that made it easier and more enjoyable. Entrepreneurs can apply this lesson by focusing on how their businesses can simplify and enhance the customer experience. Whether it is through product design, customer service, or the way a business interacts with its audience, companies that prioritize the needs of their customers often stand out from the competition. Jobs' ability to rethink retail also highlights the importance of developing creative problem-solving skills. When faced with the challenge of improving Apple's retail strategy, he did not just make small adjustments to the existing model. He started from scratch, thinking about every detail of the shopping experience and designing something completely new. Entrepreneurs can benefit from this approach by learning to step back from their industries and look at problems from a fresh perspective. Instead of making incremental improvements, they should ask themselves how they would design their businesses if they were starting from the ground up. This kind of thinking often leads to innovative solutions that set companies apart. Another key takeaway from the Apple Store case study is the value of testing ideas before launching them on a large scale. Jobs did not simply open dozens of stores without first refining the concept. He built a prototype, tested different layouts, and made adjustments until he was confident that the experience was perfect. Entrepreneurs can use a similar approach by prototyping their ideas, conducting small-scale tests, and gathering feedback before fully committing to a new business model or product. This minimizes risk and increases the chances of success. Jobs also demonstrated that the most successful businesses do not just sell products, they create experiences. The Apple Store was not just a place to buy computers or phones. It was a space where people could interact with Apple's brand, learn about technology, and receive expert support. This approach built a deep emotional connection between Apple and its customers, making them more likely to remain loyal to the brand. Entrepreneurs should think beyond simply selling a product or service and consider how they can create an experience that engages their customers on a deeper level. This could involve providing educational content, offering personalized support, or creating a community around their brand. The success of Apple stores also proves that taking bold risks can lead to massive rewards. Many people doubted Jobs when he decided to open retail stores, but he had a clear vision and was willing to take the risk to make it a reality. Entrepreneurs should not be afraid to pursue unconventional ideas, even if others think they will fail. The key is to have a strong vision, back it up with careful planning, and execute it with excellence. Some of the greatest business breakthroughs come from taking risks that others are unwilling to take. Steve Jobs had an extraordinary ability to turn products into compelling stories, making Apple's marketing one of the most powerful in business history. He understood that people do not just buy products for their technical features, but for how those products make them feel. He believed that every product should have a story behind it, a deeper meaning that connects with customers on an emotional level. Unlike other technology companies that focus their marketing on specifications, technical jargon, and price comparisons, Jobs made sure Apple's products were presented as part of a larger narrative about creativity, innovation, and changing the world. He had a deep understanding of psychology and human behavior, knowing that customers respond to stories more than facts. His approach to marketing was never about selling products in a traditional way, but about inspiring people to be part of something bigger. This philosophy shaped Apple's advertising and branding, making it one of the most iconic companies in the world. One of the best examples of Jobs' storytelling ability was the Think Different campaign, which launched in 1997 when Apple was struggling to regain its footing. At the time, Apple was losing market share to competitors. Its products were not performing well, and many people believed the company was on the verge of failure. Jobs had just returned to Apple, and instead of focusing on specific products in his marketing strategy, he decided to focus on Apple's identity. He wanted to remind people what Apple stood for and why it was different from every other technology company. The result was the Think Different campaign, which did not feature computers at all. Instead, it featured black and white images of some of the most influential people in history, including Albert Einstein, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., and Amelia Earhart. These individuals were described as people who saw the world differently, challenged the status quo, and changed history. The campaign ended with the powerful phrase, "Think Different," reinforcing the idea that Apple was not just a computer company, but a company for people who wanted to push the boundaries of what was possible. The impact of the Think Different campaign was immediate and profound. It redefined Apple's brand and positioned it as the company that supported visionaries, creators, and those who dared to challenge convention. Even though the campaign did not talk about any specific product, it made people feel something about Apple. Customers wanted to be associated with the brand because it represented creativity, boldness, and individuality. This is a key lesson for entrepreneurs. People do not just buy products based on logic alone. They make emotional connections with brands that align with their values and aspirations. Entrepreneurs should think beyond simply listing the features of their products and instead craft stories that resonate with their audience. A strong brand story makes customers feel like they are part of a movement rather than just making a purchase. Jobs also understood the art of simplicity in marketing, which was another reason Apple's advertisements were so effective. Many companies overload their marketing materials with too much information, trying to explain every single feature of a product. Jobs took the opposite approach. He believed that simplicity was the key to capturing attention and making a lasting impression. Apple's advertisements were often minimalistic, featuring a clean design, a short but powerful message, and high-quality visuals. For example, when the first iPod was introduced, Apple did not market it with technical details about storage capacity or file formats. Instead, the main slogan was, 1,000 songs in your pocket. This simple phrase immediately communicated the benefit of the product without overwhelming customers with unnecessary information. Instead of making people think about gigabytes and specifications, it made them think about how much music they could carry with them, making it relatable and easy to understand. Entrepreneurs can learn a lot from Jobs' approach to simplicity in marketing. One of the biggest mistakes businesses make is trying to explain too much at once, assuming that more information will make their product more appealing. However, too much complexity can confuse customers and dilute the message. A clear and concise message is far more effective. Instead of listing every technical feature, businesses should focus on the core benefit that their product provides and communicate it in a way that is easy to understand. Simplicity does not mean dumbing things down. It means making information more accessible and relatable. Jobs was a master at distilling complex ideas into simple yet powerful messages that people could immediately grasp. Whether it was the iPod, the iPhone, or the Mac, his marketing campaigns always focused on the experience rather than the specifications. Another key aspect of Jobs' marketing strategy was his ability to create excitement and anticipation around Apple's product launches. He knew that launching a product was not just about announcing it, but about building a story that made people eager to see what was coming next. He carefully planned every product reveal, using secrecy and suspense to generate curiosity. Apple's keynote presentations became legendary because Jobs treated them like performances rather than business presentations. He understood the importance of pacing, storytelling, and surprise. He would start by describing a problem, gradually build up excitement, and then reveal the solution with a simple yet dramatic statement. One of his most famous moments was when he introduced the iPhone in 2007. Instead of immediately showing the product, he first told the audience that Apple was introducing 3 revolutionary devices: a widescreen iPod, a mobile phone, and an internet communicator. He repeated these 3 categories several times before finally revealing that they were all part of a single device, the iPhone. This theatrical build-up made the announcement far more impactful than if he had simply introduced the phone right away. Entrepreneurs can apply this lesson by thinking about how they launch their products and services. Instead of just announcing something, they should consider how they can build anticipation and make the experience more memorable. People love stories, surprises, and experiences that feel special. By crafting a compelling launch strategy, businesses can generate buzz and excitement, making their products more desirable. This can be done through teaser campaigns, behind-the-scenes content, or storytelling that builds up to a big reveal. The goal is to make people feel like they are part of something special, rather than just being sold a product. Another reason Jobs' marketing was so effective was that he always focused on the user experience rather than the technology itself. Many tech companies talk about the power of their processors, the number of megapixels in their cameras, or the complexity of their algorithms. Jobs, on the other hand, focused on how Apple's products improved people's lives. The Mac was not just a computer, it was a tool for artists, musicians, and creative professionals to bring their ideas to life. The iPod was not just a music player, it was a way to carry a personal soundtrack everywhere. The iPhone was not just a phone, it was a revolutionary device that changed the way people communicated, worked, and lived. This shift in perspective made Apple's products more than just pieces of technology. They became symbols of innovation, creativity, and personal empowerment. For entrepreneurs, the lesson here is to always think from the customer's point of view. Instead of focusing on what a product does, they should focus on how it makes people's lives better. Customers do not care about the technology behind a product as much as they care about how it benefits them. By framing marketing messages around real-life applications and emotional connections, businesses can create stronger engagement and loyalty. When Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone on January 9, 2007, at the Macworld conference in San Francisco, he did not just launch a product. He created a moment in history that changed the technology industry forever. The way he presented the iPhone was not a traditional product launch. It was an event that felt more like a grand reveal, a performance that captivated the audience and made people feel like they were witnessing the future. Jobs understood that people do not just buy products based on technical specifications. They buy into ideas, emotions, and stories. He knew that the best way to introduce a revolutionary device was to frame it as part of a larger narrative, making the audience feel emotionally connected to the innovation. This approach made the iPhone launch one of the most famous product unveilings in history, and cemented Apple's reputation as a company that did more than just sell technology. It sold a vision of the future. At the time of the iPhone's launch, the mobile phone industry was dominated by companies like Nokia, BlackBerry, and Motorola. Phones had small screens, physical keyboards, and complicated menus. Most people used their phones primarily for calling and texting, and smartphones were still considered niche products used mainly by business professionals. Touchscreen devices existed, but they were slow, required styluses, and had clunky interfaces. Jobs saw an opportunity to change the way people interacted with mobile devices by creating a phone that was simple, intuitive, and designed for everyday users rather than just corporate executives. However, he knew that simply listing the iPhone's features would not be enough to make people understand how revolutionary it was. He had to make them feel it. Jobs began his presentation with a sense of suspense, building anticipation before revealing the product. He told the audience that Apple was about to introduce 3 revolutionary products: a widescreen iPod with touch controls, a revolutionary mobile phone, and a breakthrough internet communicator. He repeated these 3 devices several times, letting the excitement build in the room. Then he delivered the iconic line, "These are not 3 separate devices. This is one device, and we are calling it iPhone." The crowd erupted in applause because Jobs had just made them realize that Apple had combined 3 essential devices into one, something that no other company had done before. This moment was carefully crafted to create maximum impact. By presenting the iPhone as a combination of 3 must-have devices, Jobs made people immediately understand why it was important. Throughout the presentation, Jobs did not focus on the technical specifications of the iPhone. He focused on what it could do for people and how it would change their lives. Instead of talking about the phone's processor speed or storage capacity, he demonstrated how easy it was to navigate using the touchscreen. He showed how scrolling through music or zooming into photos was as simple as a flick of a finger. He emphasized the frustration of using traditional mobile phones with their tiny keyboards and complicated buttons, making the iPhone's smooth interface seem like a magical solution. He even made a joke about how bad mobile browsers were at the time, positioning the iPhone as the first phone that could deliver a true desktop-like internet experience. By doing this, he made the audience feel the problems that existed in the industry before presenting Apple's solution. Another reason the iPhone launch was so effective was that Jobs made the presentation personal. He did not just demonstrate features. He used real-life examples to show how the iPhone fit into everyday life. He showed how people could check the weather in seconds, how they could easily send and receive emails, and how they could browse websites just as they would on a computer. This made the technology feel approachable and relatable. It was not just a high-tech gadget, it was something that would make daily tasks easier and more enjoyable. This level of emotional connection made the audience feel like they needed the iPhone, not just that they wanted it. Jobs also used humor and storytelling to make the presentation more engaging. At one point, he made a call to a Starbucks store from the iPhone and jokingly ordered 4,000 lattes. This small, unscripted moment added personality to the presentation and made the audience laugh, reinforcing the idea that the iPhone was fun and easy to use. By incorporating humor, Jobs made a technical product feel more human. Entrepreneurs can learn from this by understanding that presentations should not feel like lectures. They should feel like conversations that draw people in. The iPhone launch was not just about the product itself. It was about crafting a compelling brand story. Jobs framed Apple as a company that was not just making phones, but redefining the entire mobile industry. He positioned the iPhone as a revolutionary device that would change how people communicated, worked, and entertained themselves. He made it clear that Apple was not just following trends, but setting them. This type of storytelling created a strong emotional connection with customers. It made them feel like they were part of a movement, not just buying a phone. For entrepreneurs, the key lesson from Jobs' iPhone launch is that storytelling is one of the most powerful tools in business. People remember stories far more than they remember facts and figures. When launching a product or service, business owners should think about the larger narrative behind what they are offering. Instead of just listing features, they should explain why those features matter and how they improve people's lives. They should craft a story that highlights the problem their product solves, the journey that led to its creation, and the impact it will have on customers. This makes a product more than just an object. It becomes part of an experience. Another important takeaway is that the best brand stories make customers the heroes, not the company. Jobs did not make the iPhone launch about Apple. He made it about the people who would use the iPhone. He focused on how it would make their lives better, how it would give them more control, and how it would allow them to do things they never thought possible. Entrepreneurs should adopt the same mindset by positioning their customers as the central characters in their brand stories. The company is simply the guide that helps customers achieve something great. Jobs' approach also highlights the importance of making marketing simple and easy to understand. Many businesses make the mistake of overloading their audience with too much information. Jobs kept his message clear and focused. He did not list every technical detail of the iPhone. He focused on a few key features that mattered most and explained them in a way that anyone could understand. Entrepreneurs should follow this principle by refining their messaging so that their audience can immediately grasp the value of their product or service without feeling overwhelmed. Another major lesson from the iPhone launch is the power of anticipation. Jobs did not just announce the iPhone suddenly. He built up suspense and created a sense of excitement leading up to the reveal. Entrepreneurs can use a similar strategy by creating teaser campaigns, hinting at big announcements, and building excitement around their product launches. Anticipation makes customers more engaged and more eager to buy when the product is finally available. The iPhone launch also proves that presentation matters. Jobs was known for his simple but highly effective presentation style. He dressed in his signature black turtleneck and jeans, using a minimalistic stage design with clean visuals and large, bold text. This made sure that the focus remained on the message rather than distractions. Entrepreneurs should pay attention to how they present their brands. A clear, well-structured, and visually appealing presentation can make a huge difference in how a product is perceived. Steve Jobs strongly believed that the best way to create great products was to start with the user experience and work backward, rather than beginning with technology and then figuring out how to sell it. He understood that technology should serve people, not the other way around. Many companies focus on developing advanced features and then try to convince customers that they need them, but Jobs took a different approach. He began by thinking about what would make life easier, more enjoyable, and more seamless for users. This philosophy shaped Apple's approach to product development and is one of the biggest reasons why the company's products have been so successful. From the very beginning of Apple, Jobs emphasized simplicity, elegance, and ease of use. He believed that technology should feel natural, intuitive, and almost invisible, allowing users to focus on what they wanted to do rather than struggling with complicated interfaces or unnecessary complexity. This user-first approach is what made Apple's products stand out in a crowded market and build an intensely loyal customer base. One of the earliest examples of Jobs' user-first philosophy was the development of the Macintosh computer in the early 1980s. At the time, most computers were designed for engineers and required users to type commands into a terminal to perform basic tasks. Jobs believed that computers should be easy enough for anyone to use, not just technical experts. He and his team at Apple worked to develop a graphical user interface with icons, windows, and a mouse, making it possible for people to interact with a computer by simply clicking and dragging, rather than memorizing complex commands. This was a revolutionary shift that changed the entire industry, making personal computers accessible to millions of people who had never used one before. Instead of designing a product and then expecting users to adapt to it, Apple designed the Macintosh by thinking about what would make the experience effortless and enjoyable for everyday people. This approach set a new standard for computing and established Apple as a company that prioritized the user above everything else. Jobs followed the same philosophy when developing the iPod in the early 2000s. At the time, digital music players were already on the market, but they were difficult to use, had clunky designs, and required users to manually organize and transfer music files. Jobs saw that people wanted a simpler way to listen to their favorite songs on the go. Instead of focusing on technical specifications like storage capacity or file compatibility, Apple designed the iPod with the user experience as the top priority. The scroll wheel made it incredibly easy to navigate through thousands of songs with just one hand, and the integration with iTunes made it simple to purchase and organize music legally. The marketing slogan for the iPod, 1,000 songs in your pocket, reflected this focus on the user experience. Apple did not advertise the iPod based on its technical specifications, but on the experience it provided. This approach made the iPod a massive success and set the foundation for Apple's future dominance in consumer electronics. One of the most famous examples of Jobs' user-first thinking was the development of the iPhone. Before the iPhone was introduced, smartphones had physical keyboards, small screens, and complicated menus that made them difficult to use. Jobs and his team started by asking a simple question: what would the ideal mobile experience look like? Instead of designing a phone with a keyboard and then trying to improve it, they worked backward by imagining a device that was entirely focused on ease of use, with a large touchscreen that allowed users to interact with content directly. This led to the removal of the physical keyboard, replacing it with a software-based keyboard that could adapt to different functions as needed. The multi-touch interface made scrolling, zooming, and navigating effortless. Jobs did not focus on what the competition was doing or what features could be added. He focused entirely on what would make the phone experience better for the user. The result was a device that was completely different from anything else on the market, and one that redefined the smartphone industry. For entrepreneurs, Jobs' belief in starting with the user experience and working backward provides a crucial lesson. Many businesses make the mistake of focusing too much on their product's features rather than thinking about what customers truly need and want. Entrepreneurs should always begin by understanding their target audience, identifying their pain points, and then designing products or services that solve real problems in a simple and meaningful way. This means observing how people interact with existing solutions, gathering feedback, and prioritizing ease of use over technical complexity. Businesses that take a user-first approach are far more likely to create products that people love and recommend to others. The best companies are not just those that build great products, but those that create experiences that customers cannot imagine living without. Another reason why entrepreneurs should focus on customers rather than just products is that consumer expectations are always evolving. A business that is solely focused on product specifications may struggle to keep up with changing demands, but a business that deeply understands its customers will always find ways to stay relevant. Jobs was famous for saying that customers do not always know what they want until you show it to them. This does not mean that businesses should ignore customer input. Instead, it means that businesses should go beyond what customers say they want and anticipate what they will need before they even realize it. This requires paying close attention to customer behavior, identifying frustrations they may not even be able to articulate, and designing solutions that exceed expectations. Jobs and Apple did this repeatedly by simplifying complex technologies and making them more intuitive. The reason people lined up for new Apple products year after year was not because of technical specifications, but because they trusted that Apple had designed something that would make their lives better. A strong focus on customer experience also creates long-term brand loyalty. Companies that prioritize the user above everything else build strong relationships with their customers, making them more likely to return for future purchases. Apple customers are known for their brand loyalty, and this is not because Apple has the most advanced hardware or the lowest prices. It is because Apple consistently delivers products that feel thoughtfully designed, easy to use, and seamlessly integrated into daily life. Entrepreneurs should think about how they can create a similar sense of trust and loyalty by making every aspect of their business customer-centric. This means ensuring that the purchasing process is simple, customer support is helpful and responsive, and the overall experience of using the product or service is enjoyable. Another key takeaway from Jobs' philosophy is that simplicity is often the key to a great user experience. Many businesses believe that adding more features makes a product better, but Jobs believed the opposite. He believed in removing anything unnecessary and focusing only on what truly mattered. This is why Apple products have clean interfaces, minimal buttons, and intuitive controls. Entrepreneurs should take the same approach by asking themselves what features are essential and what can be eliminated to make the user experience smoother. A cluttered product with too many options can overwhelm customers, while a simple and streamlined product feels effortless to use. Jobs' ability to work backward from the user experience also extended to Apple's retail strategy, software design, and even marketing. Every aspect of Apple's business was designed with the customer in mind, ensuring that from the moment someone walked into an Apple store to the moment they opened their new device, they felt a sense of ease and delight. Entrepreneurs can apply this principle in every part of their business, From designing a website that is easy to navigate to creating packaging that enhances the unboxing experience, every detail matters when it comes to customer satisfaction. When Steve Jobs decided to open Apple stores, many people in the industry thought he was making a mistake. At the time, technology companies primarily sold their products through third-party retailers like Best Buy, Circuit City, and other electronic stores. The common belief was that selling directly to customers through company-owned stores was too risky and too expensive. Many experts pointed to Gateway, a computer company that had attempted to open retail locations but failed. Jobs, however, saw a fundamental problem with the way technology was being sold. He believed that customers were not getting the right experience when buying Apple products from traditional electronics retailers. The stores were cluttered with products from multiple brands. Salespeople were not always knowledgeable about Apple's devices, and customers were often left feeling confused or frustrated. Jobs understood that Apple products were different, and he wanted the shopping experience to reflect that difference. Instead of following the industry norm, he set out to completely redefine how people bought technology by making Apple stores a place where customers could fully experience the brand. To ensure that Apple stores would be successful, Jobs approached the project with a meticulous focus on customer experience. He did not simply open stores and hope that people would come. Instead, he and his team conducted extensive research to understand what customers wanted and what was missing in the retail technology experience. One of the first things they did was study how people interacted with Apple products in different environments. They observed how customers behaved in traditional electronics stores, identifying points of frustration and confusion. They also looked at successful retail experiences in other industries, such as luxury fashion and high-end hospitality, to understand how to create an inviting and engaging atmosphere. Jobs believed that technology stores should not feel like warehouses filled with shelves of products. He wanted Apple stores to feel like welcoming spaces where customers could explore, learn, and interact with Apple products in a hands-on way. Before launching the first Apple store, Jobs went even further by building a full-scale prototype inside a warehouse. This allowed his team to test different layouts, experiment with store designs, and refine every detail before opening to the public. Jobs was known for his obsession with perfection, and he applied the same level of detail to the Apple Store project as he did to Apple's products. He carefully designed every aspect of the store, from the lighting and materials to the placement of tables and product displays. He wanted the stores to feel open, elegant, and intuitive, just like Apple's devices. One of the key innovations he introduced was the elimination of traditional checkout counters. Instead of having customers line up at a register, Apple Store employees were equipped with handheld devices that allowed them to complete purchases anywhere in the store. This made the shopping experience faster and more seamless. Jobs also introduced the Genius Bar, a dedicated area where customers could receive expert technical support and personalized guidance. This concept turned Apple stores into more than just retail spaces. They became places where people could get help, learn new skills, and deepen their relationship with Apple's ecosystem. When the first Apple Store opened in 2001, many analysts predicted that it would fail. They pointed to the struggles of other computer companies that had tried and failed in retail. But Apple stores were an immediate success. Customers loved the hands-on experience, the knowledgeable staff, and the beautiful, uncluttered design of the stores. The open tables allowed people to try out Apple products at their own pace, without pressure from salespeople. The Genius Bar provided a level of support that no other technology retailer was offering at the time. Within just a few years, Apple stores became the most profitable retail stores in the world, generating more revenue per square foot than even luxury brands like Tiffany & Company and Prada. Today, Apple stores continue to be a major part of Apple's success, drawing millions of visitors each year and reinforcing Apple's image as a company that puts the customer experience first. For entrepreneurs, the way Jobs revolutionized retail with Apple stores offers valuable lessons on how to conduct effective customer research. One of the most important takeaways is that businesses should not assume they know what customers want. Instead, They should take the time to observe, listen, and gather insights directly from real users. Jobs did not rely on surveys or focus groups alone. He and his team went into the field, watched how people shopped, identified pain points, and used those observations to design a better retail experience. Entrepreneurs should adopt a similar approach by spending time in the environments where their customers interact with their products or services. They should look for inefficiencies, frustrations, and opportunities to create a more seamless and enjoyable experience. Research should not just focus on what people say they want, but also on what they struggle with and what would make their lives easier. This type of deep customer understanding is what allows businesses to create products and experiences that truly stand out. Another critical lesson from the Apple Store case study is the importance of designing a business model that prioritizes user needs rather than company convenience. Many businesses structure their operations around what is easiest or most cost-effective for them, rather than what provides the best experience for their customers. Jobs took the opposite approach. He was willing to invest in premium store locations, high-quality materials, and well-trained staff, because he knew that providing an exceptional experience would lead to long-term customer loyalty and brand value. Entrepreneurs should think about how they can design their business models in a way that puts the customer first. This might mean offering more personalized service, simplifying the buying process, or removing unnecessary barriers that make it harder for customers to engage with the brand. A key part of prioritizing user needs is focusing on the entire customer journey rather than just the moment of purchase. Jobs understood that a great retail experience was not just about selling a product, it was about building a lasting relationship with the customer. This is why Apple stores were designed to provide education, support, and inspiration. Even customers who were not ready to buy could walk into an Apple store and learn something new, whether through a product demonstration, a workshop, or a conversation with an Apple specialist. This approach created a deeper emotional connection between Apple and its customers. Entrepreneurs should think about how they can add value to their customers beyond just selling a product. Providing education, offering personalized assistance, or creating community-driven experiences can help businesses build stronger and more loyal customer relationships. Another important takeaway from Jobs' retail strategy is that differentiation is key. Apple stores did not just improve on existing technology stores, they completely redefined what a technology shopping experience could be. Jobs did not try to compete with Best Buy or other retailers by offering lower prices or bigger selections. Instead, he created a unique retail environment that made Apple stand out in a crowded market. Entrepreneurs should focus on how they can differentiate their businesses by offering something that competitors do not. This could be through superior service, a unique product experience, or an entirely new approach to solving a common problem. Businesses that succeed are often the ones that do not just compete, but redefine their industries by offering something truly different. Another lesson from the success of Apple stores is that a well-designed customer experience can turn retail spaces into powerful branding tools. Every detail of an Apple store, from the layout to the materials to the way employees interact with customers, reinforces Apple's brand identity. The stores are not just places to buy products. They are physical representations of Apple's values, simplicity, elegance, and innovation. Entrepreneurs should think about how their businesses can create experiences that reflect their brand identity and values. Whether it is an online store, a physical location, or a service-based business, every touchpoint with customers should be carefully designed to leave a lasting impression. Steve Jobs had an unwavering belief that the inside of a product was just as important as the outside. This philosophy was not just about aesthetics, but about a deeper principle of craftsmanship, integrity, and attention to detail. He believed that a product should be beautiful in every aspect, even in the areas that most people would never see. This idea came from his early influences, including his father, Paul Jobs, who was a skilled craftsman and taught him the value of doing things the right way, even if no one would ever notice. Jobs often recalled a lesson from his father about building a fence. His father told him that the back of the fence, the side that no one would ever see, should be made just as well as the front. This lesson stayed with Jobs for his entire life and became a core part of Apple's design philosophy. He believed that a product was not just a collection of components, but a carefully crafted experience where every detail mattered. This belief was so deeply ingrained in Apple's culture that engineers and designers were expected to create products that were not just functional, but works of art, even on the inside. One of the most famous examples of Jobs' attention to internal design was the original Macintosh computer. When Jobs was working with the engineering team in the early 1980s, he insisted that the circuit board inside the Macintosh be designed beautifully, even though customers would never see it. He wanted the components to be arranged in a way that was orderly and elegant. When one of the engineers argued that no one would ever look inside, Jobs responded that the people who built it would know, and that was enough reason to make it beautiful. He compared it to a great carpenter who does not use cheap wood on the back of a cabinet just because it is hidden against the wall. True craftsmanship, according to Jobs, meant caring about every aspect of a product, not just the parts that were visible. This level of detail was unheard of in the technology industry at the time, where most companies focused solely on functionality and cost-cutting, rather than internal design. But Jobs saw Apple as more than just a technology company. He saw it as a company that created artful, human-centered products, and he wanted that philosophy to extend to every aspect of the design process. Another example of Jobs' obsession with internal design was the iPhone. When Apple was developing the first iPhone, Jobs demanded that even the inside of the device be carefully arranged. He wanted the battery, circuits, and chips to be placed in a way that was clean and structured, even though only engineers assembling the product would ever see it. This level of perfectionism extended to the screws used inside Apple devices. Jobs did not want standard screws that could be easily removed with a regular screwdriver. Instead, Apple designed its own proprietary screws, ensuring that the internal components remained untouched by anyone outside of Apple's repair technicians. This was part of his vision to maintain control over the entire user experience. It also reinforced the idea that Apple products were special, built with a level of care and precision that competitors did not match. Even today, Apple continues this tradition, making sure that every product it builds has an internal structure that reflects the same level of craftsmanship as its external design. Jobs' insistence on perfection went beyond just the physical design of products. He applied the same philosophy to software, packaging, and even the experience of unboxing an Apple product. He believed that the moment a customer opened a product was just as important as using it. That is why Apple's packaging is meticulously designed to create a sense of excitement and anticipation. Every box, every plastic wrap, and every piece of printed material is designed with as much thought as the product itself. Jobs understood that small details make a big difference in how people perceive a brand. He knew that when people opened an Apple product and saw how everything was perfectly arranged, it would create a sense of quality and thoughtfulness that would reinforce their emotional connection to the brand. Entrepreneurs can learn from this by understanding that customers notice details, even the ones that seem insignificant. When a business takes the time to perfect every aspect of its product or service, it sends a message that quality and excellence matter. However, there is a fine line between perfectionism and obsession, and Jobs often pushed that boundary. His perfectionism led to some of the most iconic products in history, but it also created challenges. He was known for rejecting designs and demanding that entire projects be redone because they did not meet his exacting standards. His relentless pursuit of perfection sometimes resulted in delays, as seen with the first Macintosh, which took longer to develop because Jobs kept insisting on refinements. Similarly, the original iPhone almost missed its launch deadline because Jobs kept pushing the team to improve details that most people would never notice. While his perfectionism drove Apple to create groundbreaking products, it also put enormous pressure on his teams. Many employees admired his vision and attention to detail, but others found his demands overwhelming. Entrepreneurs should take inspiration from Jobs' perfectionism, but also recognize the need to balance it with practicality. Striving for excellence is important, but it should not come at the expense of progress. Sometimes, launching a product that is great but not perfect is better than delaying indefinitely in pursuit of perfection. Another challenge with Jobs' perfectionism was that it sometimes limited flexibility. He had a strong vision for how products should be used, and often rejected ideas that did not align with that vision. For example, he was initially resistant to allowing third-party apps on the iPhone because he wanted complete control over the user experience. It was only after significant pressure from developers and customers that Apple introduced the App Store, which turned out to be one of the biggest factors in the iPhone's success. This example shows that while perfectionism can lead to incredible innovation, it is also important to remain open to new ideas and changes in the market. Entrepreneurs should strive for high standards but also be willing to adapt when necessary. Despite these challenges, Jobs' belief in perfectionism ultimately paid off. Apple's commitment to quality and design helped it become one of the most successful companies in the world. Customers recognized and appreciated the attention to detail, which created a deep sense of trust in Apple's brand. People knew that when they bought an Apple product, they were getting something that had been crafted with care from the inside out. This loyalty translated into repeat business, word-of-mouth marketing, and a strong emotional connection between Apple and its customers. Entrepreneurs should take note of this and consider how they can apply similar principles to their own businesses. Whether it is the design of a website, the layout of a store, or the quality of a product, every detail matters. Customers may not always consciously notice these details, but they will feel the difference in the overall experience. When Steve Jobs was leading the development of the first iPhone, he made a bold decision that could have been seen as risky, but ultimately contributed to the product's long-term success. The iPhone was originally scheduled to launch with a plastic screen, similar to most smartphones and mobile devices at the time. The plastic screen was lightweight, inexpensive, and easier to manufacture. However, as the launch date approached, Jobs became increasingly dissatisfied with it. He believed that a plastic screen was not durable enough and would quickly become scratched, ruining the user experience. He knew that Apple was not just creating another phone, but redefining the entire mobile industry. He wanted the iPhone to feel premium, to be a device that people cherished and enjoyed using every day. Despite the fact that changing the screen material so close to launch would cause delays and require last-minute adjustments, Jobs insisted on switching to glass. This decision forced Apple's engineering team to scramble to find a solution, but in the end, it helped make the iPhone one of the most revolutionary products in history. Jobs' demand for a glass screen was not just about aesthetics. He was thinking about how people would interact with the device daily. He anticipated that users would carry their phones in their pockets, bags, or purses, where they could be scratched by keys, coins, or other objects. A plastic screen might work initially, but over time it would degrade the experience and make the device look old and worn. Jobs wanted a material that was durable, smooth, and resistant to scratches. He wanted the iPhone to maintain its elegance, even after years of use. He reached out to Corning, a company that had developed a type of hardened glass called Gorilla Glass, which had originally been created for industrial purposes. Corning was not actively producing this type of glass at scale, but Jobs convinced them to accelerate production for Apple. His insistence on using glass forced Apple's suppliers and engineers to work around the clock to redesign the phone and adjust the manufacturing process. The result was a screen that was far superior to anything else on the market. When the iPhone finally launched in 2007, the glass screen became one of its defining features, setting a new industry standard that competitors quickly adopted. For entrepreneurs, this case study provides a valuable lesson on balancing perfectionism and efficiency. Jobs was known for his obsession with perfection, but he was also aware that products could not be delayed indefinitely. He knew that speed to market was important, but he also recognized that some decisions required extra time to get them right. Entrepreneurs often face the challenge of deciding when to push forward with a product launch, and when to take a step back and refine an important detail. In business, there is always pressure to move quickly, but rushing a product to market without ensuring quality can lead to long-term problems. Jobs' decision to delay the iPhone launch was not about making minor tweaks. It was about fixing a critical issue that would affect the entire user experience. Entrepreneurs should take a similar approach by identifying which aspects of their products or services are most important to their customers and ensuring that those areas meet the highest standards before launching. Another key lesson from Jobs' decision is that prioritizing quality can sometimes require taking risks. Changing the iPhone's screen material so close to launch was a major challenge for Apple's engineers, but Jobs was willing to take that risk because he believed the improvement was necessary. Entrepreneurs need to have the confidence to make difficult decisions that may cause short-term difficulties, but lead to better long-term results. However, it is important to differentiate between necessary refinements and unnecessary delays. Some entrepreneurs become trapped in an endless cycle of improving their products without ever launching them. This is where balance is crucial. The key is to focus on what truly matters to the customer. Not every detail needs to be perfect before launch, but the aspects that define the core experience should be refined to the highest standard. Jobs also demonstrated that prioritizing quality over speed can create a lasting competitive advantage. If Apple had launched the iPhone with a plastic screen, it might have been successful initially, but it would not have set the same standard for durability and premium design. Instead, Apple took the extra time to ensure that the iPhone felt like a luxury product, which helped build its reputation and customer loyalty. Entrepreneurs should think about how their own businesses can benefit from a commitment to quality. In many industries, customers are willing to wait longer or pay more for a product that is built to last. Cutting corners for the sake of speed can lead to dissatisfied customers, negative reviews, and a weaker brand image. Companies that focus on delivering the best possible experience are the ones that build long-term success. Another important takeaway from this case study is that perfectionism should not be about making everything flawless, but about focusing on the details that have the biggest impact. Jobs did not delay the iPhone because of minor cosmetic issues. He delayed it because he identified a major flaw that would affect how customers perceived and used the product over time. Entrepreneurs should apply this principle by setting priorities and determining which aspects of their product or service require perfection and which aspects can be adjusted after launch. For example, in software development, companies often release a product with core features perfected while continuing to improve other elements through updates. In physical products, certain design choices might need to be finalized before launch, while other refinements can be introduced in later versions. The story of the iPhone's glass screen also highlights the importance of having strong relationships with suppliers and partners. Jobs did not just demand a better material. He actively sought out Corning and worked with them to bring Gorilla Glass into mass production. Entrepreneurs should recognize that innovation does not always come from within their own company. Sometimes the best solutions come from partnering with experts in other industries. Building strong relationships with suppliers, manufacturers, and technology providers can open doors to new possibilities that improve product quality and differentiation. The decision to delay the iPhone and change the screen also demonstrates the power of conviction. Jobs faced significant pushback from his team, who were already under intense pressure to meet the launch deadline. Many companies would have chosen to stick with the original plan to avoid disruption, but Jobs refused to compromise on something he knew was important. Entrepreneurs must be willing to stand by their principles when they truly believe that a decision will benefit the customer and strengthen the brand. However, they must also be careful not to let perfectionism lead to unnecessary delays or unrealistic demands. The goal is to balance high standards with practicality, ensuring that quality improvements are meaningful rather than driven by personal obsession. Another lesson from this case is that making the right decision at the right time can have a ripple effect on an entire industry. The iPhone's glass screen was not just an improvement for Apple, it set a new standard for all smartphones. Competitors quickly followed, and within a few years, nearly every major phone manufacturer adopted glass screens. Jobs' insistence on quality forced the industry to evolve. Entrepreneurs should recognize that decisions they make about quality and innovation can influence not just their own businesses, but their entire industry. Setting a higher standard can differentiate a company and position it as a leader rather than a follower. Steve Jobs firmly believed that building a great company required hiring the best people, often referred to as A players. He defined A players as highly talented, passionate, and motivated individuals who were not just skilled in their fields, but also deeply committed to excellence. Jobs believed that a small team of exceptional people could achieve far more than a large team of average performers. He often said that Apple did not hire people to tell them what to do, but rather to bring in the best minds and let them do what they were best at. This approach set Apple apart from many other companies that prioritized filling positions quickly rather than ensuring they had the right people in place. Jobs was not just looking for employees who could do a job. He was looking for people who shared Apple's vision, who had a relentless drive to create the best products, and who were willing to push the boundaries of what was possible. This belief in hiring only the best talent played a crucial role in Apple's success, and is a lesson that every entrepreneur can apply when building their own team. One of the reasons Jobs was so focused on hiring A players was that he believed the quality of a company's workforce directly determined the quality of its products. In his view, great products did not come from average teams. They came from groups of people who were the best at what they did and who worked together to create something extraordinary. He often compared business teams to sports teams, saying that you do not build a great team by hiring average players. You find the best talent, and when you bring them together, they push each other to do their best work. He was also known for saying that A players like to work with other A players. When you hire great people, they challenge each other, inspire each other, and raise the overall level of performance. But when you hire B players or C players, the overall quality of the team starts to decline because mediocre performers tend to hire other mediocre performers. Jobs saw this as one of the biggest risks in any company. He believed that if Apple ever started settling for second best in hiring, it would lose its edge and eventually fail. Jobs' commitment to hiring A players was evident throughout Apple's history, but one of the best examples came when he was assembling the original Macintosh team in the early 1980s. At the time, Apple was still a young company, and the Macintosh was an ambitious project that aimed to change the way people interacted with computers. Jobs did not just want good engineers, he wanted the absolute best. He personally interviewed many of the team members, looking for people who were not just technically skilled, but also deeply passionate about building something revolutionary. He was not interested in people who just wanted a job. He wanted people who believed in the mission and were willing to put in the extra effort to make the Macintosh the best computer in the world. This team included some of the brightest minds in the industry, and their work led to one of the most influential products in computing history. The Macintosh set new standards for user-friendly design, graphical interfaces, and innovation, proving that assembling the right team could lead to groundbreaking results. Another example of Jobs' focus on hiring top talent came when he returned to Apple in 1997. The company was struggling, and one of his first moves was to rebuild the leadership team. He brought back key individuals who had previously worked with him, including Johnny Ive, who became Apple's chief design officer and played a crucial role in designing the iMac, iPod, iPhone, and iPad. Jobs recognized that to turn Apple around, he needed the best designers, engineers, and business leaders, not just people who could keep the company running, but people who could transform it. He also had a no-compromise attitude when it came to hiring. If he did not find the right person for a role, he would leave the position open rather than hiring someone average. He believed that the wrong hire could do more harm than good, slowing down projects and weakening the overall culture of excellence. Entrepreneurs can learn from this by being patient in their hiring process and ensuring that every team member they bring in meets the highest standards. One of the key reasons why entrepreneurs must surround themselves with smart people is that no single person has all the answers. Even Jobs, who was known for his vision and creativity, relied on a team of brilliant minds to bring Apple's ideas to life. He knew that his role was not to do everything himself, but to bring together the best people and create an environment where they could do their best work. This is one of the most important lessons for entrepreneurs. Many business owners make the mistake of trying to handle too much on their own, believing that they need to be involved in every decision. But the most successful entrepreneurs recognize that their job is to assemble a team of experts who can take their vision and turn it into reality. By hiring people who are smarter and more skilled in specific areas, entrepreneurs can focus on leading the company rather than getting caught up in every technical detail. Another reason why hiring the best people is critical is that a great team creates a culture of high performance. When you have a group of A players, they set high expectations for themselves and each other. They do not need to be constantly managed or pushed to do better because they are already driven by a desire to excel. This creates a self-sustaining cycle where top talent attracts more top talent. Employees want to work in an environment where they are surrounded by other smart and capable people. On the other hand, if a company allows mediocrity to take hold, it becomes harder to attract the best talent because top performers do not want to work with teams that do not challenge them. Entrepreneurs should think about the kind of culture they are building with every hiring decision they make. One wrong hire may not seem like a big deal, but over time, lowering hiring standards can weaken a company's ability to innovate and compete. Jobs also believed that hiring smart people was not just about technical skills, but also about passion and personality. He wanted people who were deeply invested in their work, who had a strong sense of curiosity, and who were willing to challenge conventional thinking. He was known for asking potential hires unconventional questions during interviews, not just to test their knowledge, but to understand how they thought. He valued people who had a strong point of view and were not afraid to stand up for their ideas. Entrepreneurs should apply this principle by looking beyond resumes and qualifications when hiring. Skills can be taught, but passion, curiosity, and a strong work ethic are qualities that make a long-term impact. It is important to find people who align with the company's mission and who bring energy and fresh ideas to the team. One of the biggest challenges entrepreneurs face is knowing when to make changes to their team. Jobs was not afraid to let go of people who were not performing at the level he expected. While he could be tough, he understood that keeping the wrong people in key positions could slow down innovation and lower the company's standards. Entrepreneurs should not be afraid to make difficult decisions when it comes to their teams. If someone is not contributing to the company's success, it is often better to part ways and find someone who is a better fit. The best companies are built on strong teams, and maintaining a high-performance culture requires making sure that every team member is fully aligned with the company's goals. Steve Jobs believed that great design was at the heart of Apple's success, and he built one of the most talented design teams in history to bring his vision to life. Apple was not just a technology company. It was a company that combined technology with artistry, and Jobs knew that this required an exceptional group of designers who shared his obsession with perfection and simplicity. The Apple design team, led by Jony Ive, was responsible for some of the most iconic products ever created, including the iMac, iPod, iPhone, and iPad. Unlike other technology companies that treated design as a secondary concern, Jobs made it the center of Apple's identity. He did not just want products that worked well. He wanted them to be beautiful, intuitive, and emotionally compelling. He was deeply involved in the design process, often spending hours discussing small details like the curve of a product's edges or the feel of a button. His leadership style was demanding, but it pushed Apple's design team to create innovations that changed the world. One of the key reasons Apple's design team was so successful was that Jobs hired only the best people and gave them the freedom to do their best work. He did not believe in hiring based on traditional qualifications alone. He looked for individuals who had an extraordinary ability to think differently, who were passionate about design, and who had a relentless drive to create something perfect. When he first met Jony Ive, he immediately recognized that they shared the same philosophy about design. Ive believed that good design was not just about how something looked, but about how it worked and how it made people feel. Jobs made Ive the head of Apple's design team and gave him the space to experiment and refine ideas without the bureaucratic restrictions that often slow down innovation in large companies. Apple's design team operated more like a small creative studio within a giant corporation, where ideas were explored freely and every detail was considered important. Jobs also created an environment where the design team worked closely with engineers and software developers to ensure that every aspect of a product was seamless. Many companies separate design and engineering, treating them as different departments with different priorities. This often leads to products that look good but do not function well, or products that work well but are not enjoyable to use. Jobs rejected this kind of separation. He insisted that Apple's design team and engineering team collaborate from the very beginning of a project. This approach ensured that design and functionality were perfectly integrated. When Apple was developing the first iPhone, the design team worked hand in hand with engineers to create a device that was not only powerful, but also intuitive and easy to use. The same approach was used when creating the MacBook's aluminum unibody, the iPod's iconic scroll wheel, and the iMac's sleek all-in-one design. Every detail was considered, from the placement of buttons to the materials used to build the device. Another reason Apple's design team thrived was Jobs' insistence on simplicity. He believed that simplicity was the ultimate sophistication and pushed his designers to remove anything unnecessary. He often challenged the team by asking if they could take away features rather than adding more. If something did not serve a clear purpose, it was eliminated. This was a difficult process because it required designers to make tough decisions about what was truly essential. But it was also what made Apple's products stand out. While other companies were packing their devices with as many features as possible, Apple focused on making every interaction effortless. This philosophy led to the clean interfaces of macOS and iOS, the minimalistic design of Apple hardware, and the intuitive feel of every Apple product. Jobs also had a unique way of inspiring his team. He was known for being demanding and sometimes harsh in his feedback, but he also had a way of making people believe they could accomplish the impossible. He set extremely high standards and expected his team to meet them, but he also gave them a sense of purpose. He made them feel like they were not just designing computers or phones, but creating tools that would change people's lives. He often spoke about Apple's mission to make technology more human, more intuitive, and more beautiful. This sense of purpose motivated the design team to push themselves beyond what they thought was possible. When developing the first iMac, the team faced significant challenges in creating a computer that was both powerful and simple enough for everyday users. Jobs pushed them to rethink traditional computer design, leading to the creation of an all-in-one device with a transparent casing that was unlike anything else on the market. The result was a product that became an instant success and set the stage for Apple's future design philosophy. For entrepreneurs, one of the biggest lessons from Jobs' leadership of Apple's design team is the importance of hiring and retaining top talent. Jobs did not settle for average employees. He searched for people who were not only skilled, but who also shared his passion for excellence. Entrepreneurs should take a similar approach by being selective in their hiring process and ensuring that every new team member brings something extraordinary to the company. It is not just about finding people who can do the job, but finding people who believe in the mission and are willing to go the extra mile to achieve it. A strong team is the foundation of any successful business, and hiring the right people can make the difference between mediocrity and greatness. Another key lesson is that innovation happens when different disciplines work together. Jobs' decision to integrate design, engineering, and software development ensured that Apple's products were not just functional, but also beautifully designed and easy to use. Entrepreneurs should avoid the mistake of keeping different teams isolated from each other. Instead, they should encourage collaboration across different areas of the business. Whether it is marketing working closely with product development or customer service providing feedback to designers, the best ideas often come from cross-disciplinary teamwork. Creating an innovative workplace culture also requires giving employees the freedom to explore new ideas. Jobs trusted his design team to take risks and experiment, which led to breakthroughs that might not have happened in a more rigid corporate structure. Entrepreneurs should create an environment where creativity is encouraged and where employees feel empowered to challenge existing ideas. This does not mean accepting failure without accountability, but it does mean giving people the space to think differently and push boundaries. Another critical takeaway from Apple's design team is that simplicity should be a guiding principle in any business. Jobs constantly challenged his team to remove unnecessary complexity, making Apple's products more intuitive and enjoyable to use. Entrepreneurs should apply this principle to their own businesses by looking at how they can simplify processes, improve customer experiences, and focus on what truly matters. Complexity often creates confusion and inefficiency, while simplicity leads to clarity and effectiveness. Jobs also understood that great teams need strong leadership and a clear vision. He set high expectations for his team, but also inspired them with a compelling vision of what they were working toward. Entrepreneurs must do the same by providing a clear mission that motivates their employees. When people understand the purpose behind their work and believe they are contributing to something meaningful, They are more engaged, more innovative, and more committed to success. Steve Jobs was known for his intense negotiation style, which played a crucial role in Apple's success. He was not just a visionary who created groundbreaking products. He was also a master strategist when it came to securing the best deals for Apple, whether it was in licensing agreements, supply chain control, or partnerships. Jobs had a reputation for being both charismatic and highly assertive, and he used these traits to push for what he believed was best for Apple. He understood that business success was not just about having the best products, but also about having the best business deals. He was relentless in negotiations, often refusing to settle for anything less than what he thought was necessary to maintain Apple's competitive advantage. While his approach was sometimes seen as aggressive, it was also highly effective because he combined his intense demands with a clear vision and an ability to inspire people to believe in his ideas. Entrepreneurs can learn from Jobs' negotiation tactics by understanding how to balance charisma and assertiveness to achieve business goals without alienating partners. One of the most famous examples of Jobs' negotiation skills was his ability to secure exclusive licensing deals. In the early 2000s, Apple was developing iTunes and the iPod, and Jobs knew that digital music was going to change the industry. However, at the time, the music industry was resistant to change. Record labels were struggling with piracy, and most of them did not believe that digital downloads could be a profitable business. Jobs saw an opportunity to create a legal, user-friendly way for people to buy and listen to music, but he needed the major record labels to agree to license their songs to Apple. He approached the negotiation with a mix of charm and relentless persuasion. He convinced the record labels that Apple's iTunes store would not only help them fight piracy, but also create a new revenue stream. He promised that Apple would make it simple for customers to buy music legally with just one click. To sweeten the deal, he assured the labels that Apple would price songs at 99 cents each, making them affordable while still generating profits. His confidence and ability to present a clear vision eventually won over the music industry, and Apple secured licensing agreements that allowed it to dominate digital music for years. Entrepreneurs can learn from this by recognizing that successful negotiations require more than just demands. They require the ability to present a compelling vision that makes the other party feel like they are gaining something valuable. Another area where Jobs excelled in negotiations was supply chain control. He understood that having the best technology was not enough if Apple could not produce products efficiently and at scale. He wanted Apple to have access to the best components at the lowest prices while maintaining strict control over quality. One of the most well-known examples of this was his negotiation with Corning for Gorilla Glass. When Jobs decided that the iPhone needed a glass screen instead of plastic, he approached Corning, a company that had developed a durable glass but was not producing it at scale. Jobs did not simply ask Corning to supply Apple with glass. He pushed them to ramp up production immediately, even though they had never manufactured Gorilla Glass in large quantities before. He was so confident in his vision that he convinced Corning's CEO to reallocate resources and prioritize Apple's order. This aggressive but strategic negotiation ensured that the iPhone launched with a superior screen that set it apart from competitors. Entrepreneurs can apply this lesson by recognizing that strong negotiations often involve pushing suppliers and partners to meet higher standards, while also showing them the long-term benefits of working together. Jobs also used his negotiation skills to secure some of the best manufacturing deals in the industry. In the early 2000s, Apple was expanding its product lineup with devices like the iPod and later the iPhone. Jobs wanted to ensure that Apple had the best possible supply chain, which meant negotiating exclusive deals with suppliers. He traveled to China and met directly with manufacturers to ensure that Apple got priority access to components like flash memory and advanced display screens. One of his most famous moves was securing exclusive agreements for NAND flash memory, which was essential for the iPod and iPhone. Jobs made massive upfront payments to suppliers, locking in the best prices and ensuring that Apple would always have enough supply while competitors struggled with shortages. This kind of aggressive supply chain control gave Apple a huge advantage, allowing it to produce high-quality products while keeping costs under control. Entrepreneurs can learn from this by understanding that securing the best deals in manufacturing and supply chains is just as important as creating a great product. Strong negotiations can give a company the resources it needs to scale efficiently and stay ahead of competitors. Balancing charisma and assertiveness is crucial for leaders, and Jobs had a unique way of doing this. He was famous for his intense personality, often pushing people to their limits in negotiations. However, he was also deeply charismatic, which allowed him to persuade and inspire others rather than simply forcing his way. He had a natural ability to make people believe in his vision, which gave him leverage in negotiations. Whether he was convincing a record label executive to sign a deal, pushing a supplier to meet impossible deadlines, or persuading a retailer to give Apple prime shelf space, he combined his high expectations with an infectious enthusiasm that made people want to work with him. Entrepreneurs can apply this by recognizing that assertiveness alone is not enough. A leader must also be able to build strong relationships and make others feel like they are part of something bigger. One of the key takeaways from Jobs' negotiation style is that confidence is essential. He never entered a negotiation with hesitation or uncertainty. He always knew exactly what he wanted and was willing to push relentlessly until he got it. However, his confidence was not just about demanding things. It was about deeply believing in his products and the future of Apple. Entrepreneurs should approach negotiations with the same level of conviction. If they truly believe in their product or business, they should not be afraid to push for the best possible deals. Confidence inspires trust, and when a leader is certain about their vision, others are more likely to follow. Another important lesson is knowing when to walk away. Jobs was not afraid to walk out of negotiations if he felt that the deal was not right for Apple. He understood that sometimes the best move is not to compromise, but to wait for a better opportunity. For example, when Apple was developing the iTunes Store, Jobs initially faced resistance from record labels who wanted higher pricing models. Rather than accepting their terms, he walked away and waited until they realized that Apple's model was the best option. This ability to stand firm and not rush into bad deals helped Apple maintain control over its products and services. Entrepreneurs should remember that not every deal is worth taking. Sometimes the best move is to hold out for better terms, even if it means delaying a project. While Jobs' negotiation tactics were highly effective, they were also intense, and not every entrepreneur should adopt his approach exactly as he did. His demanding nature worked for Apple because he had a unique ability to back up his assertiveness with groundbreaking products and a strong brand. However, in some cases, his tough negotiation style led to friction, and not all relationships ended well. Entrepreneurs should aim to find a balance between pushing for what they want and maintaining long-term partnerships. Negotiation is not just about winning a deal, but also about building relationships that create value over time. When Steve Jobs set out to launch the iTunes Store in the early 2000s, the music industry was in chaos. Digital piracy was skyrocketing, with millions of people illegally downloading songs from platforms like Napster and LimeWire. Traditional record labels were losing revenue at an alarming rate, but they were resistant to change, fearing that digital music would destroy their existing business model. Most record executives saw digital downloads as a threat rather than an opportunity. Jobs, however, saw things differently. He believed that if digital music was done the right way, it could not only save the industry, but also revolutionize how people consumed music. He envisioned a platform where users could legally and easily purchase individual songs for a small price rather than being forced to buy entire albums. But to make this vision a reality, he needed to convince the biggest record labels to support iTunes by licensing their music to Apple. This was one of the most challenging negotiations of Jobs' career, and his ability to navigate this process successfully changed the music industry forever. Jobs approached the negotiations with record labels, using a mix of boldness, persuasion, and strategic thinking. He understood that he was asking the music industry to take a leap of faith into the unknown. At the time, digital downloads were not widely accepted, and most executives did not believe that people would pay for music when they could get it for free through piracy. Jobs had to convince them that Apple's iTunes Store would not only generate revenue, but also provide a solution to the piracy problem. He knew that the music industry was desperate for an answer, So he positioned Apple as the company that could help them regain control. He argued that by offering a seamless, legal, and user-friendly platform, Apple could provide consumers with an experience that was better than piracy. Instead of focusing on the risk of digital music, he emphasized the opportunity. He painted a picture of a future where customers would be willing to pay for convenience, quality, and reliability, rather than resorting to illegal downloads. One of the most critical factors in Jobs' success was his ability to lead with confidence and conviction. When he walked into negotiations with record label executives, he did not act like someone asking for permission. He acted like someone who knew he was right and simply needed others to see it too. He had a deep belief in his vision, and that confidence was contagious. He did not allow doubts or resistance to shake his determination. He presented iTunes as an inevitable evolution of the music industry, rather than just another business proposal. His ability to make others believe in his vision was one of his greatest strengths as a negotiator. He did not rely on aggressive tactics or compromise. Instead, he inspired people by making them feel like they were part of something revolutionary. Entrepreneurs can learn from this by understanding that confidence in a negotiation is just as important as the facts and figures. When leaders truly believe in their ideas, they can convince others to believe in them too. Jobs also used strategic timing to his advantage. By the time he approached the record labels, they were already struggling with declining CD sales and the rise of piracy. He understood that the industry was desperate for a solution, and he positioned Apple as the only company capable of providing one. He leveraged Apple's reputation for innovation and user-friendly technology, reminding record executives that Apple had already transformed the computer industry with the Macintosh. He argued that the same company that made computers easy for everyday users could also make digital music easy and accessible. He played on the fear that if record labels did not act quickly, piracy would continue to erode their business. He made it clear that Apple was offering them a lifeline, not just another business deal. Entrepreneurs should take note of this strategy. Timing matters in negotiations, and identifying when the other party is most receptive can make all the difference in securing a deal. Another key element of Jobs' negotiation strategy was his ability to simplify complex problems. The music industry was overwhelmed by digital piracy, and many executives were hesitant to embrace new technology because they did not fully understand it. Jobs broke the problem down into simple terms. He did not talk about technical specifications or licensing complexities. Instead, he focused on the user experience. He demonstrated how easy it would be for customers to browse, purchase, and download songs with just one click. He made the process feel intuitive and effortless, which helped record labels see the value in iTunes. This is an important lesson for entrepreneurs. In negotiations, clarity is power. When pitching an idea, business leaders should focus on how their solution benefits the other party in the simplest and most compelling way possible. Jobs also structured the deal in a way that minimized risk for the record labels. He proposed a fixed price of 99 cents per song, ensuring that music would be affordable enough to attract customers, but still profitable for the industry. He also reassured labels that Apple was not trying to take control of the music business, but simply provide a platform that would help them sell more music. Unlike other companies that had tried to enter the digital music space, Apple was not demanding ownership of the content or dictating unrealistic terms. Jobs positioned Apple as a partner rather than a competitor. This is another valuable lesson for entrepreneurs. When negotiating, it is important to create a win-win situation where both sides feel like they are gaining something valuable. By structuring deals in a way that addresses the concerns of the other party, business leaders can build long-term partnerships rather than short-term transactions. Another aspect of Jobs' negotiation strategy was his ability to remain persistent without appearing desperate. He understood that major deals take time and that initial resistance is part of the process. When record labels pushed back, he did not give up or water down his vision. He patiently continued to refine his pitch, address concerns, and demonstrate why iTunes was the best path forward. He did not let rejection discourage him, nor did he rush to close deals under unfavorable terms. He maintained control of the negotiation by staying firm on what he believed was non-negotiable, while showing flexibility on minor details. Entrepreneurs should adopt the same mindset in negotiations. Persistence is key, but it must be paired with patience and a willingness to address objections without compromising the core vision. Jobs also used exclusivity as a bargaining tool. He initially secured agreements with a small group of major record labels, making iTunes the only legal platform where customers could buy digital music from those companies. This exclusivity gave Apple a competitive edge and forced other labels to follow. Once iTunes proved successful, more record companies wanted to join, further strengthening Apple's dominance in the music industry. This strategy of creating exclusivity and demonstrating early success can be applied in many business negotiations. Entrepreneurs can start by securing key partnerships or influential customers, and then using those early wins to attract others. By positioning a deal as a rare opportunity, rather than something available to everyone, business leaders can create urgency and demand. The result of Jobs' negotiation efforts was the launch of the iTunes Store in 2003, which completely transformed the music industry. Within the first week, Apple sold over 1 million songs. Over the years, iTunes became the dominant platform for digital music, generating billions of dollars in revenue, and making Apple one of the most powerful players in the entertainment industry. More importantly, it proved that consumers were willing to pay for music if given a convenient and legal way to do so. Jobs' ability to convince record labels to support iTunes not only saved the music industry from piracy, but also laid the foundation for the modern streaming economy. For entrepreneurs, the key lessons from this case study are clear. Negotiating like a visionary entrepreneur requires confidence, persistence, and the ability to paint a compelling picture of the future. Leaders must believe in their vision so strongly that others cannot help but believe in it too. They must time their negotiations strategically, ensuring that they approach potential partners when the need for a solution is highest. They must simplify complex problems, focusing on the benefits rather than the technical details. They must structure deals that provide value for both sides while maintaining control over their vision. And most importantly, they must remain patient and persistent, understanding that major deals take time but are worth the effort. Jobs' ability to negotiate with record labels was not just about securing music for iTunes. It was about changing an entire industry, and his success proves that with the right strategy, confidence, and vision, entrepreneurs can achieve groundbreaking results in their own businesses. Steve Jobs strongly believed in the power of saying no. He often said that innovation was not just about coming up with new ideas, but also about deciding which ideas to ignore. His famous philosophy of saying no to 1,000 things was one of the core principles that guided Apple's success. Jobs understood that focus was one of the most valuable assets in business, and that spreading resources too thin could lead to mediocrity. He believed that companies should concentrate on doing a few things exceptionally well, rather than trying to do everything. This philosophy shaped Apple's product strategy, design choices, and overall business approach. Jobs was ruthless in eliminating distractions, cutting unnecessary projects, and rejecting ideas that did not align with Apple's core mission. This discipline allowed Apple to create groundbreaking products that changed entire industries. Entrepreneurs can learn from Jobs by understanding that success often comes from knowing what to ignore rather than what to pursue. One of the most famous examples of Jobs applying this philosophy was when he returned to Apple in 1997. At that time, Apple was in crisis. The company had lost its focus, and its product lineup was cluttered with too many models that confused customers and drained company resources. Apple was making dozens of different computers, including multiple versions of the Macintosh, several models of printers, and other accessories. Jobs immediately saw that Apple had spread itself too thin and that the company needed to simplify its approach. In one of his first major decisions, he dramatically reduced Apple's product line. He cut down the number of Macintosh models from over a dozen to just 4: a consumer desktop, a consumer laptop, a professional desktop, and a professional laptop. Everything else was eliminated. Many employees and executives were shocked by this decision, but Jobs was unwavering. He believed that focusing on a few high-quality products would allow Apple to put all its energy into making them the best in the world. This decision was a turning point for Apple. Instead of wasting time and resources on too many products, the company focused on refining and perfecting the core products that would define its future. The result was a series of innovations, including the iMac, iPod, iPhone, and iPad, that transformed Apple into one of the most valuable companies in the world. Jobs applied the same philosophy when it came to product features. He was known for constantly asking his teams whether a particular feature was truly necessary. If something did not add significant value to the user experience, it was removed. One example of this was when Apple was developing the original iPod. The design team initially wanted to include multiple buttons and advanced settings that would allow users to customize their experience. Jobs rejected this approach. He insisted that the device should be simple and easy to use. He challenged the team to create a design that allowed users to navigate their entire music library with as few steps as possible. This led to the creation of the famous iPod scroll wheel, which became one of the most intuitive interface designs in history. By saying no to unnecessary complexity, Apple was able to create a product that was not only innovative, but also easy for anyone to use. Entrepreneurs can apply this lesson by constantly evaluating whether each decision is truly necessary for their business. If an idea does not directly contribute to the company's core mission, it may be better to let it go. Jobs also used the power of saying no when dealing with external partnerships. Apple was frequently approached by other companies with offers for collaborations, licensing deals, and joint ventures. While many companies might have jumped at the opportunity to work with big brands, Jobs was extremely selective about the partnerships Apple pursued. He believed that working with the wrong partners could dilute Apple's brand and distract the company from its main goals. One example of this was Apple's relationship with Adobe. In the early days of the iPhone, many people expected Apple to support Adobe's Flash software, which was widely used for web content. However, Jobs refused to allow Flash on iOS devices, arguing that it was inefficient, slow, and unreliable. Many critics questioned this decision, but Jobs remained firm, believing that HTML5 and other modern technologies would provide a better experience in the long run. His decision turned out to be correct. Over time, Flash became obsolete, and Apple's focus on newer web standards helped improve the overall performance of its devices. Entrepreneurs should take inspiration from this by recognizing that not every partnership or business opportunity is worth pursuing. It is better to stay focused on long-term goals rather than getting distracted by short-term gains. Another important aspect of Jobs' philosophy was his ability to say no even when it was difficult. He was not afraid to reject ideas from his own team, even if they had spent months working on them. He believed that if an idea was not strong enough to be part of Apple's core vision, it should be scrapped, no matter how much time or effort had already been invested. This was evident when Apple was developing the iPhone. The original design included a plastic screen, but Jobs insisted that it be changed to glass just months before launch. This decision forced Apple's engineers and suppliers to make last-minute changes, but it resulted in a much better product. Entrepreneurs should understand that making tough decisions is part of leadership. Sometimes the best choice is to abandon an idea that does not meet the highest standards, even if it means taking a short-term loss. The power of saying no also applied to Apple's marketing and branding strategy. Unlike many other technology companies that advertised their products with long lists of technical specifications, Apple kept its messaging simple. Jobs believed that too much information overwhelmed customers and made products feel complicated. Instead of focusing on every feature, Apple focused on a few key benefits that mattered most. One of the best examples of this was the marketing campaign for the first iPhone. Instead of listing the processor speed, battery capacity, and other technical details, Apple simply introduced the iPhone as 3 devices in one: a phone, a widescreen iPod, and an internet communicator. This clarity made the iPhone easy for customers to understand and increased its appeal. Entrepreneurs should apply this principle by simplifying their messaging and focusing on what truly makes their product or service valuable. Another lesson from Jobs' philosophy is that saying no allows a company to maintain high standards. Many businesses struggle with growth because they try to take on too many projects at once. This leads to a loss of focus and a decline in quality. Jobs knew that Apple's strength came from its ability to create products that were beautifully designed and meticulously crafted. By limiting the number of projects Apple worked on, he ensured that each one received the attention and resources needed to make it great. Entrepreneurs should remember that quality is often more important than quantity. Instead of expanding too quickly or chasing every opportunity, businesses should focus on delivering excellence in a few key areas. Jobs' approach also teaches entrepreneurs the value of patience. Many businesses rush into decisions because they fear missing out on an opportunity. Jobs, on the other hand, was willing to wait for the right moment. Apple did not enter the smartphone market until it had the perfect product. It did not launch a tablet until it could create one that met the highest standards. This patience allowed Apple to introduce products that were truly revolutionary rather than just good enough. Entrepreneurs should learn from this by resisting the urge to chase trends and instead focusing on long-term success. Apple's success under Steve Jobs was largely due to its ability to stay focused and avoid the common mistake of over-diversification. Many companies, in an effort to grow, expand into too many product categories or markets, stretching their resources thin and losing their identity. Apple, however, followed a different path. Instead of chasing every business opportunity, Jobs maintained strict discipline in keeping Apple focused on a limited number of high-quality products. He believed that doing a few things exceptionally well was far better than trying to do everything. This approach allowed Apple to maintain a strong brand, deliver outstanding products, and dominate multiple industries without losing its core vision. Entrepreneurs can learn valuable lessons from Apple's ability to evaluate and reject unnecessary opportunities while creating a business strategy that remains sharply focused. One of the most significant moments that showcased Apple's ability to avoid over-diversification was when Steve Jobs returned to the company in 1997. At that time, Apple was struggling to survive. The company had lost its way, and one of the biggest reasons for this was that it had expanded into too many product lines. Apple was selling a confusing array of computers, printers, digital cameras, and accessories. There were multiple variations of the Macintosh, each with different specifications, and customers found it difficult to understand which product was right for them. This lack of focus was draining Apple's financial and creative resources. Jobs immediately recognized that Apple was trying to do too much and that this was hurting the company. He made a bold decision to cut down Apple's product line dramatically. He reduced the number of Macintosh models to just 4: a consumer desktop, a professional desktop, a consumer laptop, and a professional laptop. Every other product was discontinued. Many executives and employees were shocked by this move, but Jobs was convinced that Apple needed to simplify in order to regain its strength. This decision was a turning point for Apple, allowing the company to focus all of its energy on perfecting a few great products rather than maintaining a bloated catalog of mediocre ones. Apple's ability to stay focused did not stop after it returned to profitability. Even as the company grew into one of the most valuable businesses in the world, it continued to avoid over-diversification. One of the best examples of this is Apple's approach to the smartphone market. Unlike many other manufacturers that release dozens of models every year, Apple has consistently maintained a limited lineup of iPhones. While competitors like Samsung and Huawei flood the market with multiple versions of smartphones targeting different price points, Apple carefully curates its offerings to ensure that each product aligns with its brand and provides a high-quality experience. This focused approach has allowed Apple to maintain strong customer loyalty and avoid the risks of managing too many products with inconsistent quality. Another important example of Apple rejecting unnecessary business opportunities is its decision to avoid getting into low-cost consumer electronics. Many companies expand by launching budget-friendly versions of their products to capture more market share. Apple, however, has consistently refused to do this. Jobs believed that Apple's strength came from making premium, high-end products that delivered the best possible user experience. When competitors introduced cheap laptops, Apple continued to focus on high-quality MacBooks. When Android manufacturers started releasing low-cost smartphones, Apple refused to make a budget iPhone. Even when competitors launched inexpensive tablets, Apple kept the iPad positioned as a premium device. This strategy has helped Apple maintain its reputation for excellence and ensured that it never compromised on quality just to chase sales. One of the most important lessons entrepreneurs can learn from Apple is how to evaluate and reject unnecessary business opportunities. Many businesses fail because they try to expand into every possible market without considering whether it aligns with their strengths. Apple's approach shows that not every opportunity is worth pursuing. Entrepreneurs should carefully assess whether a new product or service fits within their company's core mission. If an opportunity does not align with the brand's identity or dilutes its focus, it is better to say no. This principle applies to startups as well. Many new businesses get distracted by trying to offer too many services or target too many different customer segments. This often leads to confusion, wasted resources, and a lack of clear direction. Instead, entrepreneurs should focus on what they do best and double down on their strongest areas. Another key lesson from Apple is that a focused business strategy leads to higher quality. By limiting the number of products it develops, Apple ensures that each product receives the necessary attention, design, and refinement. This focus has led to some of the most innovative and successful products in history, including the iPhone, iPad, MacBook, and Apple Watch. Entrepreneurs should take inspiration from this by prioritizing quality over quantity. Instead of rushing to launch multiple products or services, businesses should concentrate on making a few offerings truly exceptional. This approach not only improves customer satisfaction, but also strengthens brand reputation. Apple's disciplined approach to business expansion can also be seen in its retail strategy. Many technology companies rely on third-party retailers to sell their products, but Apple chose to open its own Apple stores. While this required significant investment, it allowed Apple to maintain complete control over the customer experience. However, even within its retail expansion, Apple avoided over-diversification. Instead of opening thousands of stores in every city, Apple carefully selected prime locations and designed each store to provide a unique and immersive shopping experience. This strategic expansion helped Apple strengthen its brand without spreading itself too thin. Apple's ability to stay focused is also evident in its approach to software and services. While many technology companies create multiple versions of their operating systems for different devices, Apple maintains a unified software ecosystem. iOS, macOS, iPadOS, and watchOS are all designed to work seamlessly together, creating a smooth and integrated user experience. This level of consistency is only possible because Apple has resisted the temptation to fragment its software development across too many platforms. Entrepreneurs should learn from this by ensuring that their business remains cohesive. A scattered approach to product development or service offerings can lead to inefficiencies and a weakened customer experience. Instead, businesses should focus on creating a seamless and unified offering that strengthens their overall brand. Another valuable lesson from Apple is that focus leads to better marketing. Because Apple maintains a streamlined product lineup, its marketing efforts are highly effective. Every product launch receives full attention, and customers clearly understand what makes each device special. In contrast, companies that release too many products often struggle to create a clear marketing message. Entrepreneurs should apply this lesson by ensuring that their branding and messaging remain simple and compelling. A business that tries to appeal to everyone often ends up appealing to no one. Clear, focused branding helps businesses build stronger connections with their target audience. Apple's ability to avoid over-diversification has also helped it maintain strong financial performance. Many companies that expand too quickly find themselves burdened with high operational costs, inventory issues, and declining profitability. Apple, however, has consistently maintained high profit margins by keeping its operations efficient and its product line carefully curated. Entrepreneurs should consider how unnecessary expansion can create financial strain. Instead of growing too quickly, businesses should focus on building a strong foundation, ensuring profitability, and scaling only when it makes strategic sense. Steve Jobs' journey is one of the most powerful examples of resilience and reinvention in business history. In 1985, he was forced out of Apple, the company he had co-founded, and this moment could have been the end of his career. Instead, Jobs used his failure as an opportunity to grow, learn, and eventually make an extraordinary comeback. His story teaches entrepreneurs that setbacks are not the end, but rather turning points that can lead to new opportunities. Every entrepreneur will face failure at some point, whether it is a rejected idea, a failed product, or a business that does not succeed. What matters is how they respond. Jobs proved that failure does not define a person. Instead, it can be a stepping stone to even greater success. When Jobs was pushed out of Apple, he was only 30 years old. He had built Apple from a small startup in his parents' garage into one of the most innovative technology companies in the world. But after a series of internal conflicts, Apple's board of directors sided with John Sculley, the CEO that Jobs had hired, and decided that Jobs was no longer the right person to lead the company. This was a devastating blow. Jobs had poured his heart into Apple, and now he was being told that he was not needed. He later admitted that for a time he felt lost and embarrassed. Many people in his position might have walked away from the industry or settled into a quieter role. But Jobs did the opposite. Instead of giving up, he used this setback as motivation to start again. This period of failure turned out to be one of the most productive and creative times of his life. After leaving Apple, Jobs founded a new company called Next. He wanted to build a computer that was even more advanced than anything Apple had created. Although Next did not achieve massive commercial success, the technology it developed laid the groundwork for future innovations. The Next operating system was later integrated into Apple's macOS, becoming the foundation for the modern Mac and iPhone software. Jobs did not know at the time that Next would play such a critical role in his return to Apple, but he focused on creating something meaningful, even when the odds were against him. This is an important lesson for entrepreneurs. When facing failure, the best thing to do is to keep moving forward, continue learning, and work on something that adds value. Even if the immediate outcome is not a success, the experience and knowledge gained can lead to future breakthroughs. During this same period, Jobs also took another major risk by purchasing Pixar, a small animation studio that was struggling financially. At the time, Pixar was focused on developing computer graphics technology, but Jobs saw its potential as a storytelling powerhouse. He invested millions of dollars of his own money into the company, even when it was not clear that it would succeed. For years, Pixar struggled to make a profit, but Jobs believed in the vision and kept pushing forward. Finally, in 1995, Pixar released its first full-length animated movie, Toy Story, which became a massive hit and revolutionized the animation industry. The success of Pixar turned Jobs into a billionaire and gave him a new level of influence in the entertainment industry. This part of his journey shows that failure can sometimes lead to opportunities in unexpected places. Entrepreneurs should remember that setbacks often open doors to new possibilities that may not have been part of the original plan. Jobs' biggest moment of reinvention came in 1997, when Apple, the company that had fired him, was struggling and on the verge of bankruptcy. The company had lost its way, releasing too many products with little innovation, and was rapidly losing market share. Apple needed help, and it turned to Jobs. In a dramatic twist, Apple acquired Next, bringing Jobs back into the company he had founded. Within a few months, he was back in charge, and he immediately set about turning Apple around. He simplified the product line, focused on design and user experience, and launched the iMac, which helped Apple regain its position as a leader in the industry. Over the next decade, he introduced the iPod, iPhone, and iPad, completely transforming multiple industries. The company that had once fired him became the company he led to become the most valuable in the world. Entrepreneurs can take inspiration from this by understanding that failure does not mean the end of the road. Sometimes it is simply a redirection towards something even greater. One of the most important lessons from Jobs' story is that failure is an opportunity to learn and grow. When he returned to Apple, he was not the same leader he had been in the 1980s. He had matured, gained new experiences, and learned from the mistakes of the past. He was more strategic, more focused, and more determined than ever. Entrepreneurs should see failure as a chance to improve. Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, they should analyze their mistakes, gain insights, and use that knowledge to make better decisions in the future. Another key lesson is that passion is what keeps entrepreneurs moving forward after failure. Jobs never lost his love for creating great products. Even when he was no longer at Apple, he continued to work on projects that excited him. This passion kept him going, even during difficult times. Entrepreneurs should build businesses around things they truly care about. When setbacks happen, passion is what keeps them motivated to keep going rather than giving up. Jobs also showed that resilience is one of the most important qualities of a successful entrepreneur. He could have easily become bitter after being fired from Apple, but instead, he used the experience as motivation. He stayed focused, kept innovating, and eventually came back stronger than ever. Entrepreneurs need to develop a mindset that embraces challenges rather than fears them. Every business will face obstacles, but those who persist and adapt will ultimately succeed. Another powerful lesson is that reinvention is sometimes necessary for long-term success. Jobs did not just return to Apple and continue where he left off. He reinvented himself as a leader and changed Apple's approach to business. Entrepreneurs should be willing to evolve, learn new skills, and adapt to changing circumstances. Sometimes success requires letting go of old ways of thinking and embracing a new perspective. One of the most practical takeaways from Jobs' journey is that entrepreneurs should always be working on something meaningful, even when facing setbacks. Jobs did not sit still after being fired from Apple. He started Next, invested in Pixar, and kept moving forward. Entrepreneurs should do the same. If one business fails, they should start another. If a product does not work, they should refine it or try something new. The most successful entrepreneurs are not the ones who never fail, but the ones who keep going despite failure. Jobs also demonstrated that building strong relationships can play a key role in bouncing back from failure. Even after he left Apple, he maintained connections in the industry, and these relationships helped him when he eventually returned. Entrepreneurs should focus on building valuable relationships, networking with people who share their vision, and maintaining good reputations even during difficult times. These connections can open doors to new opportunities when they are needed most. When Steve Jobs left Apple in 1985 after being forced out of the company he had co-founded, he did not give up on his vision of creating revolutionary technology. Instead, he started a new company called Next, which aimed to build high-end computers for education and business. Jobs believed that Next would create the future of computing, but the company faced significant challenges. The computers were too expensive for their target market, and Next struggled to find widespread adoption. By the early 1990s, it became clear that Next was not going to be the game-changing success Jobs had envisioned. Many people would have considered this a failure, but Jobs did not see it that way. Instead of focusing on what went wrong, he looked for new opportunities, and in doing so, he transformed a struggling business venture into one of the greatest animation studios in history. Pixar was not initially part of Jobs' grand plan, but it became the foundation of his second act as an entrepreneur. His journey with Next and Pixar provides powerful lessons on resilience and the ability to pivot when necessary, two essential qualities for any entrepreneur. When Jobs founded Next, he had ambitious goals. He wanted to build computers that were technologically advanced and beautifully designed. However, the high cost of manufacturing made it difficult to sell Next computers at a price that schools and businesses could afford. The machines were innovative, but they were too expensive for the market they were trying to reach. Sales were disappointing, and despite investing millions of his own money into the company, Jobs struggled to make Next a success. By 1993, after years of financial losses, Next stopped making hardware and shifted its focus to software. While this pivot helped keep the company afloat, it was clear that Next would never become the dominant force in computing that Jobs had hoped for. However, instead of viewing this as a complete failure, Jobs used this experience to refine his skills as a business leader. He learned valuable lessons about product positioning, market demand, and the importance of adaptability. These lessons would later prove to be invaluable when he returned to Apple and transformed the company into a global powerhouse. While Jobs was running Next, he also made a lesser-known but incredibly important investment. In 1986, he purchased a small graphics division from Lucasfilm for $10 million and turned it into an independent company called Pixar. At the time, Pixar was focused on developing computer graphics technology and high-end animation software. Jobs did not buy Pixar because he wanted to enter the film industry. He initially saw it as a technology company that could sell advanced rendering software to studios and businesses. For years, Pixar struggled financially, and it was unclear whether the company would ever become profitable. Jobs had to continue investing more of his own money to keep it running. At several points, he considered selling the company, but he believed in its potential and kept it going. This is a crucial lesson for entrepreneurs. Not every business starts with a clear path to success. Sometimes, it takes time to uncover the real opportunity. If Jobs had given up on Pixar too soon, he never would have discovered what it could become. The major turning point for Pixar came when the company shifted from selling software to producing animated films. This was a massive pivot, but it was necessary for the survival of the company. Pixar's leadership team, including John Lasseter and Ed Catmull, convinced Jobs that Pixar's future was in storytelling, not just technology. Instead of trying to sell animation tools to other studios, they decided to use their own technology to make feature films. Jobs recognized the potential in this new direction and supported the team in pursuing it. Pixar formed a partnership with Disney to produce a fully computer-animated movie, something that had never been done before. This was a high-risk move because there was no guarantee that audiences would embrace a film created entirely with computer animation. But Jobs and the Pixar team believed in the idea and pushed forward. This ability to pivot and embrace a new direction is one of the most important qualities an entrepreneur can have. Businesses often start with one idea, but succeed with another. Being willing to adapt and change course when necessary can be the difference between failure and breakthrough success. In 1995, after nearly a decade of struggles, Pixar released its first full-length animated film, Toy Story. The movie was an instant hit, both critically and commercially. It became the highest-grossing film of the year and established Pixar as a leader in animation. More importantly, it validated Jobs' belief in the company. After years of uncertainty, Pixar had finally found its true purpose. The success of Toy Story transformed Pixar from a struggling tech company into a major player in the film industry. Pixar went on to produce a series of blockbuster animated films, including Finding Nemo, Monsters, Inc., and The Incredibles. In 2006, Disney acquired Pixar for $7.4 billion, making Jobs the largest shareholder in Disney and cementing his legacy in the entertainment industry. The company he had once considered selling had become one of his greatest successes. This is a powerful example of how persistence and the willingness to pivot can lead to extraordinary outcomes. For entrepreneurs, one of the most important lessons from Jobs' journey with Next and Pixar is the importance of resilience. Failure is an inevitable part of business, but what matters is how entrepreneurs respond to it. Jobs could have walked away after Next struggled, but instead, he used the experience to grow and prepare for future opportunities. He did not let one setback define his career. Entrepreneurs must develop the ability to keep going even when things do not go as planned. Every failure carries valuable lessons that can be applied to future ventures. The key is to stay committed, remain open to new possibilities, and keep pushing forward even in difficult times. Another crucial lesson is the importance of being flexible and knowing when to pivot. Jobs initially saw Next as a hardware company, but when that did not work, he shifted to software. He originally viewed Pixar as a technology company, but when it became clear that its strength was in storytelling, he embraced the change and turned it into a film studio. Entrepreneurs must be willing to adapt when necessary. Many businesses fail, not because the idea was bad, but because the founders were unwilling to adjust their approach. Recognizing when a business needs to change direction and having the courage to make that change is an essential skill for long-term success. Jobs' experience with Pixar also shows that sometimes success takes longer than expected. Many entrepreneurs expect quick results, but real breakthroughs often take years. Pixar spent nearly a decade struggling before finding success with Toy Story. If Jobs had given up too soon, he never would have seen Pixar become what it did. Entrepreneurs should remember that patience and long-term thinking are critical. Building something great takes time, and staying committed to a vision, even when the path is unclear, can lead to incredible rewards. Another important takeaway is that even a struggling business can have hidden value. Next was never a huge financial success, but the technology it developed became the foundation for Apple's future. When Apple acquired Next in 1997, its software became the basis for macOS, iOS, and the entire modern Apple ecosystem. Similarly, Pixar started as a small graphics company, but became the leader in animation. Entrepreneurs should always look for ways to extract value from their experiences, even if a business does not go as planned. Sometimes what seems like a failure is actually the foundation for future success. Steve Jobs was a master of long-term thinking and always played the infinite game in business. He did not build Apple with the goal of simply making quick profits or achieving short-term success. Instead, he focused on creating a company that would continue innovating and thriving for decades. Jobs understood that the most successful businesses are not those that chase immediate financial gains, but those that build lasting brands, develop loyal customers, and create products that stand the test of time. He was not interested in short-term victories that could compromise Apple's long-term vision. Every major decision he made was guided by the belief that Apple should be a company that would outlast him, delivering groundbreaking products and unforgettable customer experiences for generations. Entrepreneurs can learn from Jobs' approach by understanding that real business success comes from thinking beyond the next quarter's profits and instead focusing on sustainable growth, innovation, and brand loyalty. One of the clearest examples of Jobs' long-term thinking was how he positioned Apple as more than just a technology company. While many tech companies focused on releasing new products as quickly as possible to generate revenue, Jobs took a different approach. He wanted Apple to be known for its commitment to quality, simplicity, and innovation. This focus on brand identity meant that Apple did not follow industry trends just for the sake of keeping up with competitors. Instead of rushing products to market, Apple took the time to perfect every detail, ensuring that each release met the highest standards. This commitment to long-term brand value is one of the reasons why Apple has remained one of the most respected and trusted companies in the world. Entrepreneurs should adopt the same mindset by prioritizing their brand's reputation and customer trust over short-term financial gains. A strong brand built on quality and consistency will generate long-term customer loyalty, which is far more valuable than a temporary spike in sales. Jobs also demonstrated long-term thinking in how he approached product development. Many companies release multiple versions of their products each year, constantly updating them with minor improvements to drive sales. Jobs, however, believed in releasing only products that truly made a difference. When Apple launched the first iPhone in 2007, it was not just another phone. It was a completely new way of thinking about mobile devices. Instead of flooding the market with many different models, Apple focused on refining the iPhone over time, making each generation significantly better than the last. This strategy ensured that Apple's products remained highly desirable and that customers would continue upgrading to the latest version year after year. Entrepreneurs should learn from this by focusing on long-term product excellence rather than short-term sales tactics. Releasing a few great products that consistently improve over time is a more sustainable strategy than constantly launching new but mediocre offerings. Another way Jobs played the infinite game was in Apple's approach to customer experience. He knew that if Apple focused on delivering exceptional experiences, customers would keep coming back. This is why he invested so much effort into designing Apple stores, ensuring that they were not just retail locations but immersive brand experiences. He wanted every customer interaction with Apple to reinforce the company's values of simplicity, elegance, and user-friendliness. While competitors focused on maximizing sales through third-party retailers, Apple built a direct relationship with its customers. This strategy took time and required significant investment, but it paid off in the long run by creating one of the most loyal customer bases in history. Entrepreneurs should remember that customer loyalty is built over years, not months. Prioritizing long-term relationships with customers by offering excellent service, reliable products, and a strong brand identity will lead to sustained success. Jobs also resisted the temptation to focus purely on short-term profits, even when doing so would have been the easier path. Many technology companies try to cut costs by using cheaper materials, outsourcing customer service, or rushing products to market before they are fully ready. Jobs refused to make these compromises. He believed that if Apple remained committed to excellence, it would always have customers willing to pay a premium for its products. This strategy is why Apple became known for high-quality, well-designed products that people trust. Entrepreneurs should recognize that cutting corners for quick profits can damage a company's reputation and long-term viability. Investing in quality, even when it costs more upfront, often leads to greater success over time. One of the best examples of Jobs' long-term strategy was his investment in software and ecosystem development. Unlike many companies that focused only on selling hardware, Jobs understood that Apple's future depended on creating an integrated ecosystem where all products worked seamlessly together. This vision led to the development of macOS, iOS, iCloud, and the App Store, all of which made Apple devices more valuable over time. While building this ecosystem required years of development and did not generate immediate profits, it created a competitive advantage that made Apple products nearly impossible to replace. Entrepreneurs should learn from this by thinking beyond individual product sales and considering how their offerings fit into a larger system that keeps customers engaged over time. Jobs also believed in making bold bets that would pay off in the future, even if they seemed risky in the short term. When Apple introduced the iTunes Store, many industry experts were skeptical. The music industry was struggling with piracy, and record labels were hesitant to embrace digital distribution. Jobs, however, saw the long-term potential of creating a legal, user-friendly way to purchase music. He convinced record labels to license their songs to Apple, and over time, iTunes became one of the most successful digital media platforms in history. This success was not immediate, but because Jobs had the patience to build a strong foundation, Apple was able to dominate digital music for years. Entrepreneurs should recognize that some of the best opportunities require patience and persistence. It is important to stay committed to a vision, even when immediate results are not visible. Another major aspect of Jobs' long-term thinking was his commitment to innovation. He knew that companies that focused only on current products and short-term profits would eventually be left behind. This is why Apple continued investing in research and development, even when it was already successful. Jobs understood that Apple needed to keep pushing boundaries to remain relevant. This commitment to innovation led to the creation of products like the iPhone, iPad, and Apple Watch, all of which redefined their respective industries. Entrepreneurs should remember that no business can afford to stand still. The companies that survive and thrive are the ones that keep evolving, experimenting, and taking risks on new ideas. Another key lesson from Jobs' long-term approach is the importance of hiring and retaining the best talent. Many companies make hiring decisions based on short-term needs, filling positions quickly rather than focusing on finding the best people. Jobs, however, believed in building a team of A players who would contribute to Apple's long-term vision. He was highly selective about who he hired, ensuring that every employee shared Apple's passion for excellence. This strategy ensured that Apple had a strong culture of innovation and high standards, which contributed to its ongoing success. Entrepreneurs should apply this lesson by prioritizing long-term team building rather than just filling roles quickly. Hiring the right people can have a lasting impact on a company's success. When Steve Jobs co-founded Apple in the 1970s, he had a clear vision of creating a company that combined hardware and software into a seamless, user-friendly experience. This belief in complete control over both aspects of a product was one of the most defining principles of Apple's business strategy. Unlike Microsoft, which licensed its Windows operating system to multiple hardware manufacturers, Jobs refused to license Apple's macOS to third-party companies. While this decision seemed risky in the short term, it played a crucial role in building Apple into one of the most valuable and enduring brands in the world. By keeping macOS exclusive to Apple's own devices, Jobs ensured that every Apple product delivered a carefully crafted experience that set it apart from competitors. His decision demonstrates the power of long-term thinking and the importance of building a brand that prioritizes quality, consistency, and customer loyalty over quick financial gains. Entrepreneurs can learn valuable lessons from Jobs' strategy by understanding how to make decisions that protect their brand and ensure lasting success. The decision to keep macOS exclusive was not an easy one, especially during the early years of Apple. In the 1980s, the personal computer industry was rapidly growing, and Microsoft had taken a different approach by licensing Windows to multiple PC manufacturers. This strategy allowed Windows to dominate the market by running on a wide variety of devices made by companies such as IBM, Dell, and Compaq. Apple, on the other hand, was focused on maintaining control over its entire ecosystem, from the hardware to the software. Jobs believed that by designing both, Apple could create a superior product that offered a better experience for users. However, this strategy also meant that Apple's computers were more expensive and had a smaller market share compared to Windows PCs. Many industry experts criticized Apple for not following Microsoft's licensing model, arguing that Apple was limiting its growth potential. But Jobs remained steadfast in his belief that quality and control mattered more than short-term market expansion. Apple briefly experimented with licensing macOS during the 1990s, when Jobs was not at the company. After Jobs was forced out of Apple in 1985, the company struggled under different leadership. In an effort to compete with Microsoft, Apple began licensing macOS to third-party manufacturers, allowing them to build Mac-compatible computers. While this strategy temporarily increased Mac's market share, it also led to several problems. The licensed Mac clones were often of lower quality, leading to an inconsistent user experience. Customers who bought non-Apple Mac computers sometimes encountered performance issues, and because these devices were not built with the same attention to detail as Apple's own hardware, they failed to deliver the seamless experience that had made Apple products unique. Additionally, licensing macOS meant that Apple was making less profit per machine sold, since third-party manufacturers were taking a share of the revenue. The strategy backfired, and by the mid-1990s, Apple was losing money, its brand was weakening, and the company was on the verge of bankruptcy. When Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, one of his first major decisions was to end the licensing program. He believed that Apple's strength came from its ability to integrate hardware and software seamlessly, and licensing macOS was diluting that advantage. He quickly shut down the Mac clone program, even though it was generating revenue. Many people questioned this move, arguing that Apple needed to expand its market share in order to survive. But Jobs was thinking long-term. He understood that protecting Apple's brand and maintaining control over the product experience was more important than short-term profits. Instead of trying to compete directly with Windows on market share, he focused on making Apple products so good that people would be willing to pay a premium for them. This decision helped Apple regain its identity as a company that delivered high-quality, tightly integrated products. Within a few years, Apple introduced the iMac, followed by the iPod, iPhone, and iPad, each of which became a category-defining product. The decision to keep macOS exclusive ensured that every Apple device worked flawlessly, creating an ecosystem that encouraged customer loyalty and long-term success. One of the biggest lessons entrepreneurs can learn from Jobs' decision is the importance of thinking long-term in business. Many companies focus on short-term gains, trying to expand as quickly as possible by chasing immediate revenue opportunities. However, Jobs understood that not all growth is beneficial if it comes at the cost of quality and brand integrity. Entrepreneurs should evaluate whether each business decision aligns with their long-term vision. Expanding too quickly or sacrificing product quality to gain market share might bring short-term success, but it can weaken a company's foundation over time. Instead, business owners should focus on creating products and services that maintain consistent quality, build customer trust, and support sustainable growth. Another important takeaway is that protecting a brand's identity is crucial for long-term success. Apple's brand was built on offering a unique and premium user experience, and licensing macOS threatened to undermine that reputation. When Apple allowed third-party manufacturers to make Mac clones, it lost control over product quality, leading to an inconsistent customer experience. Entrepreneurs should remember that their brand is one of their most valuable assets, and any decision that weakens it can have long-term consequences. Maintaining control over key aspects of a business, whether it is product design, customer service, or supply chain management, ensures that the company can consistently deliver on its promises to customers. Jobs' decision also highlights the importance of differentiation in business strategy. Microsoft's approach of licensing Windows allowed it to dominate the market in terms of volume, but Apple's approach allowed it to dominate in terms of quality and brand loyalty. Instead of trying to compete directly with Microsoft on market share, Jobs focused on making Apple the best choice for customers who valued design, performance, and ease of use. This strategy paid off. While Apple may not have had the largest market share in the computer industry, it had the most profitable customers and the strongest brand loyalty. Entrepreneurs should consider how they can differentiate their businesses instead of simply copying what competitors are doing. Sometimes, focusing on a niche market with a high-quality product is a better long-term strategy than trying to appeal to everyone. Another lesson from this case study is the importance of controlling the customer experience. Jobs believed that the best products were those where every detail was carefully designed and optimized. By keeping macOS exclusive to Apple hardware, he ensured that every Mac delivered a seamless and polished experience. Entrepreneurs should think about how they can maintain control over their customer experience. Whether it is through proprietary technology, unique service offerings, or a carefully curated supply chain, businesses that take ownership of their product from start to finish can create experiences that stand out from the competition. Jobs' long-term strategy also teaches entrepreneurs that difficult decisions are sometimes necessary for success. Ending the macOS licensing program was controversial and required Apple to take a financial hit in the short term. However, it was the right move for the company's long-term sustainability. Entrepreneurs should not be afraid to make tough decisions that align with their core values, even if they face resistance or skepticism. Protecting the integrity of a product or brand is more important than taking the easy route for immediate gains. Steve Jobs' journey offers a masterclass in visionary entrepreneurship, showing that success is not just about building great products, but about thinking differently, staying resilient, and prioritizing long-term impact over short-term gains. His key mental frameworks, relentless focus, customer-first innovation, perfectionism balanced with practicality, and the courage to challenge industry norms, shaped Apple into one of the most influential companies in history. Entrepreneurs can apply these lessons by staying committed to their vision, embracing failure as a stepping stone, and always striving for excellence in their craft. Jobs' famous words, "Stay hungry, stay foolish," remind us that true innovation comes from maintaining curiosity, taking risks, and never settling for the ordinary. In today's fast-changing world, entrepreneurs who dare to dream big, challenge conventions, and push boundaries will be the ones who leave a lasting legacy.